Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Building a new home can be a challenge, a lot of big choices. With our Remington homes, we have designed 15 different floor plans that appeal to a wide range of people.
Bob Benish of Aspen Builders, talking about Remington Homes, which makes the home building process easier.
People really enjoy being able to go to our website, which is remingtonlincoln.com, pick a plan, pick a price point, go through and build it yourself. You have a lot of options, whether you want granite, painted trim, wood floors, more stone, all options with our Remington homes. People do not want to be married to their house payment. You're able to get what you really want in a home for a great price with very limited stress. And that's what Remington homes are all about.
Home building is easier with a Remington home from Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at remingtonlincoln.com. remingtonlincoln.com.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln, Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped and picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers.
Black shirts answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Hour one of Old School is sponsored by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right. Welcome in. It is Old School on The Ticket. Austin Mormon, Jay Foreman with you for the next 3 hours here on Old School. Brought to you, as you just heard, by Graham Tire Company. Proudly serving the Midwest for more than 75 years. 402-464-5685 if you want to be a part of the show all day long. Would love to hear from you. We are headed to our Aloe Fiber VIP line as we have a Husker Hall of Famer, black shirt NFL vet, and so much more. Jay Foreman on the line. Jay, happy Friday morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Hey, doing great. I know you're on the road. How are the drivers so far? Are they under control?
Yeah, I think they're cooperating so far, but it's early into the process. But it's all good. There's nothing like a little shield time.
Hey, no kidding about that. We have plenty to get to in Nebraska fall camp. And 5 for 5 approaching college football again. So we'll dive into that here in the first hour of the show. You mentioned you're early on in the drive, but Jay, we're about halfway through fall camp for Nebraska football. It's been a couple weeks of camp, and then 2 weeks from tomorrow is kickoff for the Huskers against Ohio. Halfway through fall camp, where should Nebraska football's focus be? Is it still skills and drills? Are you starting to game plan for Ohio and beyond? What's the mindset? What's the focus for Nebraska football about halfway through camp?
I mean, ideally, you're still, I think there's some positions still open. So obviously the competition's, getting even thicker, and you want to continue to build depth, right? So you're really working, you always got to hammer the fundamentals. Those are things that you have to do, day in and day out, week in and week out. So it's the big fundamentals, but you're trying to get more cohesive as a team. You're trying to, push these guys through, the hard part of camp. And this is probably the hardest part where, you got through the first nostalgia camp. Everybody's happy to be back. And then you get the pads on, and then you get sick of each other. And then you have that, I wouldn't call it a lull, but it's like where you can see a little glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel, which is the first game, but it is yet so far away. And, you break camp and all that stuff. So now you can get a little bit distracted, right? Because you get to go home to your own, apartment or house or whatever they live in. So right now it's trying to hone back in on the things that are most important. That's trying to be physical, try to build a foundation, and then obviously get a cohesive unit together in all three phases. And it's still building, or should be still building, because there's in college football everywhere, including Nebraska, there's a lot of turnover. And so, with that being said, you have to be able to And then you get guys that are dinged up maybe, and then coming back to practice, acclimate them back into practice, see where they're at, both physically and mentally. So it's a trying time, but I think when you look forward to the season getting started, this is a necessary evil to get to where you want to. And then ideally, that's obviously having more than a winning season, college football playoffs and a bowl game season, no matter what the schedule is.
What does extra after practice work look like? When you talk about building that cohesion, is that something that should already be in the books? Is that an ongoing process? What does it look like for Calandra and his receivers or offensive line and running backs? What does it look like for DBs and linebackers to get together and be working at this point in fall camp?
Yeah, right now, for the offensive line, especially for the young guys, and say you have an established veteran, let's look at like Justin Evans, and obviously, we could probably, at the end of the hour, talk about what it means for him to be potentially second team All-American, but maybe he's, working with, the guards on what, some of the looks that maybe they, hadn't seen yet, or they want to make sure that they are, better at attacking moving forward. Or you're working with the young offensive linemen to kind of teach them the techniques that you had to hone, throughout the 2 or 3 years that you've been here, to which it made you to a, pretty viable player at the center position, both here locally, but then nationally. That's what the offensive line looks like. With the linebackers, you might go over, in particularly, right? One of the biggest things that young linebackers and all our linebackers, have to work on continuously is how to, get into blocks effectively and shed blocks and then come off and make plays. And so you might be on a sled, working on hand placement, coming out your hips, being heavy-handed and violent when you rip off and go and get the ball. And it's the same thing with the defensive line. And then, working on your footwork and, as far as the defensive backs, linebackers, receivers, as well. Now, when you talk about Calandra and them and the receivers, the receivers individually can be on the jugs machine or obviously, throwing with the quarterbacks, but it's kind of like it's a catch-22. You got to make sure you're not throwing so much as a quarterback that your arm becomes, obviously, worn out or dead. And then obviously there's only so many deep routes that receivers can run. So it might be a lot of really walking through and getting into the minute details of what you want done from the quarterback and the receiver position as far as different routes against different coverages, against different corners, against different body types, because you have to forecast what you're going to see in the future. And so I don't think a lot of game planning for Ohio is going on right now. You might be some, which is probably like basics or whatever. Ohio will run. I'm sure they ran man-to-man. I'm sure they ran zone. Calandra just played them in the bowl game, so he might be familiar with, what they like to do defensively or did like to do defensively, or some of the players that are coming back. But really, you're trying to really, work on yourselves and become the best, opponent that you can have day in and day out, and that's yourself. You want to create an environment and practice that the competition level is so high day in and day out that the game is just rinse and repeat, because you want to be able to push each other to the point that you will never have a more competitive practice or competitive situation than what you have in your home field and obviously in your practice field.
As Nebraska is about halfway through fall camp again with kickoff 2 weeks against Ohio from tomorrow, what have we learned about the offense, Jay, through 2 weeks? What do we think we know? What have we heard? Where do you think the offense is at with 2 weeks to go?
Well, I think, look, we knew this in the spring that they, invested heavily in the offensive line through the portal, and they seem to all work well together along with, Coach Wade, Coach Jeep Wade. And then also the depth has really grown as far as the offensive line goes, as far as some of the young guys that they've been able to recruit. Obviously, previously with Coach Donnie and obviously Coach Rule was here as well. So the young guys that they've been able to develop and kind of foster through the process of adding good veteran leadership. And, you get Black, you got, Tree, and then you got the young man from LSU along with a new Pritchett. Now, and I throw Elijah Pritchett in there, at least right now, as a I wouldn't say, obviously it's not a portal get, but you're getting a different version of him because, whenever the light turned on for him, at some point in the season last year, it boiled over in the spring, and then obviously you're getting a different version of him, right now in camp. And so now you got your best, 5 or 6 guys with Gunnar Gatula really stepping up. They talked about, Pyle and all these other guys as well starting to come on. So really, the depth of the offensive line is probably the biggest thing coming out of camp, along with the Calandra, obviously he's the quarterback. Obviously we talked about the article, how he, became a Husker. But I think that his style of play is a little bit different, or a lot different than obviously Dylan, and the way he approaches football is a little bit different. And I'm going to say, I'm saying this without, it's not even fair to compare it, because you got to think Dylan was a true sophomore, right? And really was only around Nebraska, or at least in college football, for 15 months when he essentially was anointed, the savior of the program, or at least in his mind, the savior of the program, and all this other stuff, where you have Calandra, who was already at Virginia, went through trials and tribulations, really figured it out at UNLV. So you're getting a year or two ahead of like who he is as like maturation wise, running Nebraska. And I think the one thing that you can tell just by Calandra, and I knew it like when I watched his tape, I watched 4 games of him last year, is, and I guess I'll say this for a lot of the guys that they've got out of the portal. And I don't know what their record will be. I think they're hopefully a better team, and I think they should be a better team. But I think every one of the guys that they got out of the portal, at least as of now, at least the few that few things I've seen up close and personal, I can say this, all genuinely love football and want to be here. And so that's also Calandra, where you see him. He's got a little, different energy. He's a smaller guy. But he's, quick and a little bit more faster. But he plays like that, right? He's a very, very aggressive player as far as how he thinks about, trying to attack, offensively. And I think his ball over offense is trying to do things. I think that what he's done, which jumped out, has nothing to do with yards that he's thrown, touchdowns that he's eventually going to run, is that I think he's gotten a foxhole with those guys. And even when he makes a mistake, they know that he's been in there. He's been in it with them. And I guess I'm saying it, and if it's not coming through clear, it's like when you're in the foxhole and you've dug in and you've done the work with your teammates, they know what you're made of. They know that you're a true teammate. They know that you're one of the guys, and they know, you're doing it, to try to win. And so I wouldn't say nobody's okay with interceptions and out of nowhere fumbles, but when you know that a guy that's really trying to lay it on the line, you understand what he's trying to do, then it makes you want to go, make it right for him. And that's defensively as well. So if you see a guy out there trying to bust his tail for you offensively, and, something bad happens, you want to go out there and try to get it back, because you know that he's out there doing it for the right reasons.
You mentioned that love of football. How often, as a football player going through fall camp halfway through, are you tapping into that love of football right now? And it is, like you said, kind of in the dog days, the doldrums, where the excitement's worn off and the payoff's still, around the corner. Is it one of those things where right now you don't like football, but you love it deep down? You're not necessarily happy with it, but you got to get through it and you still love it. How much are you tapping into that reserve of the love of football to try to get through the summer heat and the dog days of fall camp?
Hey, man, you better love football, man, because, about the, 6th or 7th day you wore pads, your neck and shoulders are going to be sore, and you got to get up and, look, and, people, I think, slowly but surely are getting back on campus. And then, I wouldn't say they're having fun, but, the college, experience is a lot different, as a student athlete or an athlete. I won't even call them students anymore, is different. And so you got to love it. You got to love it. You got to go, look, you're practicing for 30 days, at least, 30 days officially before the first game. So you got to love it. And it's a long time before you get to go out there and tee it up against, Ohio, more than game opponent that's coming here that's trying to really start their season off on a good note. And so you got to love it, because, you're out there competing every day, again, not only against yourself, but other, the best of the best athletes, in the nation, as far as like, at that level or at this level. And so you got to love it. You got to love football because it's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of watching tape. It's a lot of monotony, but you got to love it because, not what it can give you, it's what you give football. And whatever comes out of it is just a byproduct of what you pour in it. So you got to love it. And more importantly, you got to love being around it. You got to love the smell of football. You got to love the good, bad, and the ugly with it, and the great with it that comes with it. You got to love your teammates because, you're going to be seeing these guys and the staff, it's a big operation, all the time. And sure, nobody's going to be on their game and be perfect, right? And everybody's, nobody's immune to having a bad day, but you got to, take the good with the bad with that as well. So you not only got to love football, you got to love your teammates. You got to love what, this game is going to really demand of you too. And because it's not, for the faint of heart, no matter how many rules they change, it's still a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice that you have to do or give in order just to give yourself a fighting chance to be successful, come Saturdays or Friday nights or Saturdays or whenever the games start to kick off.
Something else we've learned about the offense, Jay, we've heard this from Dana Holgorsen, I think Marcus Satterfield at one point too. Tight ends got some work to do, got some catching up to do. We know that's never been a focal point of a Dana Holgorsen offense, but it's a room with a lot of names that we know, seemingly a lot of talent. We heard a lot about Luke Sorensen during spring ball, the freshman out of California. Obviously, Carter Nelson, his up and down tenure. Luke Lindenmeyer, the entrenched starter there. When you hear those messages from a coach as a position group, what goes into making the next 2 weeks the best 2 weeks of fall camp and getting back to where they should be?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, from, just looking at it, even last year, obviously, Luke Lindenmeyer was kind of having a really good year, not kind of, he kind of was been the outlet. And then obviously he's been a big part of the team. He was at the Big Ten Media Days. But then after that, it's kind of been in flux, right? Where you have Carter Nelson, where you're waiting for him to pop and what position that he's in and where he can be most effective and how can they use him most effectively. And now it seems like he's fully healthy. So now you really needed him to really develop from spring and, through the summer until now. And then you got Sorensen coming in, and then you got Ingerson, who's kind of like the inline blocker. And so I think we're the role definition, let's not forget Bonner, or Janarian Bonner, that's kind of, a little bit of everything, and he can play tight end in a pinch, right? And so, they want those guys to continue to develop and get better and be the players that they should be. Because ultimately, Luke Lindenmeyer is set where he's at, but the other guys have got to get up to that level. Now, when you have a freshman that, even though an early enrollee, he's never played college, football before. So everything that he's doing day in and day out is a learning process. And so, for him, he gets a little bit of excuse, but everybody else, they're waiting to, get up to the level to where they can, be, interchangeable. And the more that you can get, out of a Carter Nelson with his, explosive athletic ability. And we've seen him on the basketball court. And obviously, coming, from an 8-man football is going to be more for Dana Holgorsen to get to where, he can call any type of plays. He can give different personnel groups. But the main thing I think he's really, really asking of them is that he wants to see better practice habits of those guys. And I think that's the hardest thing for young players or young people in any sport is to understand your practice habits, your daily routine, even though it's not sexy per se, is probably the most important thing to your development. And that's what he wants. He wants to see you be explosive on every single route. He wants to see you to run the route, if you're on the backside or maybe the second option, like you're the first option, because what he needs is his quarterback. And especially when you have a new quarterback, right, that he has to have everything in place for him to be successful. Because as much as Calandria can run around, after he starts, dicing some, these lower level teams up, one of the biggest things that people are going to try to do is try to keep him in the pocket and try to cage him in, right? And so, look, these defensive coordinators are going to look for reasons or look for ways to stop Nebraska. Now, on the flip side, every offensive coordinator knows the best way to loosen up a defense and the best way to make a defense, get out of character is start throwing to those tight ends when they become matchup problems. And so it's more practice habits, more day in and day out, and they also have to get a better knowledge of the offense. And that's just, I'm only saying that because I've been in that position, as a rookie, in the NFL, and then obviously as a freshman myself, starting or before my first start as a freshman. And the same things were kind of, echoed about my position group or how I was coming along. And it's just a process that they got to go through.
Keep that thought in the back of your head about Calandria's legs. I think there's a lot to get to in our next segment. When you think about the defense, Jay, what have we learned about that group since fall camp began and where they're at with 2 weeks till kickoff?
Well, I think they've really, taken to Coach Orich and his system and the whole, it's a whole new defensive staff. Even though you have 2 holdovers, I just accumulate them into that staff. So I think they've really hit the ground running. I think the lines of communication has been clear, and I think that's allowed their knowledge of his defense to really, really develop in a faster pace than normally, right? But then also strategically, he was able to bring 2 players with him from San Diego State, and then obviously with a couple coaches three of the coaches that he's very familiar with, obviously in different stops as far as coaching. So that's one thing that rings true, from there. And then I think obviously with the way that Coach Orris has kind of come in and his energy, just, based on what the players are saying, is really connected with the players, that they've had, been able to build some confidence. And that's the confidence that comes from knowing what you're doing, knowing how you're doing it, knowing why you're doing it, and obviously seeing some sort of fruits of their labor as far as being successful when they're, going against the 1s against 1s, 2s against 2s, 3s against 3s. So, that's the biggest thing coming out of camp. I don't think it's going to be anything like, look, they're going to run their, it's a 4-2-5 defense. They're going to be, multiple when they have to. They're going to try to play their strengths. But more importantly, it seems like they've, picked up on the system and they feel very comfortable with the system. And it matches maybe the roster that we had last year a little bit better than what the scheme that we were running last year. So the guys have kind of gotten what they wanted. I think Riley Van Poppel said he feels more comfortable in a 4-man front. You have Cam Lenhart feels a little bit more comfortable in a 4-man front. Some of the guys that they brought in specifically have played in a 4-man front. So now the guys, and also like Williams and Wary, guys need to go out there and start producing, obviously to make this defense that much better.
We'll talk more about the offense and specifically Anthony Calandria coming up in our next segment. Got a text from Lane that really ties into what I think we're going to get to. Do want to tell you about the good folks at Heartland of Nebraska Windows. They're based out of Hallam, Nebraska. They offer a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty on everything while keeping the prices affordable. Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today for more info at 402-430-3852. You can also visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. On our Aloe Fiber VIP line, it is Husker Hall of Famer, black shirt NFL vet Jay Foreman, host of Old School on the Road today. I'm Austin Norman. We'll be back with more in Hour 1 of Old School right after this.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they're committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perchmerch.com.
At Raising Cane's, we focus on making the most craveable chicken finger meals, getting them right every time. That's why we hand batter every chicken finger, mix every cane sauce, butter every Texas toast, stir every slaw, salt every fry, squeeze every lemon, and brew every ounce. We do this inside every Raising Cane's, every day, because when you do it right, you can taste it in every bite. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
Hi, Kendall Warnock here, owner of A1 Automotive. If you own a BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, or Mini, you know specialized service matters. Our team uses advanced diagnostic equipment, OE equipment, including factory-level software, to accurately diagnose and repair your vehicle. Dealer-level capabilities with hometown service. A1 Automotive, 1117 L Street. You can call us 402-477-4660.
Here's your updated 93.7 The Ticket forecast, sponsored by Bryant Air Conditioning, Electrical, Heating, and Plumbing. Slight chance of thunderstorms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 87, west winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight, slight chance for storms, lows around 66. That's your updated forecast on Lincoln's home for the Kansas City Royals, 93.7 The Ticket. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster. Right now, 72.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, our passion. For happier, healthier, furry friends.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
Bagels & Joe is the best place to start off your mornings this summer, and you can order your breakfast ahead of time on their app. This summer's cream cheese flavor is pickle. Pair it with a blueberry cobbler iced latte, and don't forget their Berry Breeze dirty soda. Stop by any of their 4 locations in Lincoln and their location in Seward. Bagels & Joe.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built upon hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with room for advancement.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
For remote starters, audio upgrades, and more, there's only one place to go. Auto Sounds of Lincoln at 48th and O.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back in, hour 1 of Old School here on a Friday. Getting excited for high school football coming your way tonight and the rest of the fall on The Ticket. Of course, Nebraska football 2 weeks and a day away from kickoff against Ohio. We head back to our Aloe Fiber VIP line where we've got Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman on the line. Jay, we got a text here from Lane that'll be a good way to segue us into this conversation. Lane says, I worry Calandria is going to run around the first 3 games and then get a wake-up call when he plays Big Ten defenses. I hope they're coaching him to get down or get out of bounds if he runs, if he's going to stay healthy all year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most things that you have to do as a quarterback, and I'm sure they talk to him. I mean, look, they understand the dynamics of non-con and who's on the schedule, and obviously when you get into Big Ten play, it's a drastic difference. Not only you're facing bigger, faster, stronger, opponents and guys that are going to come with a different mindset when they come in contact with you. But I think as a quarterback position, if you want to be an effective runner, not only for 12 games, but potentially, through, bowl game and so forth and so on, you got to be real strategic. The best way to be is a quarterback that takes no hits. You have all the rules set in place where they really can't get a good shot on you. So, every yard counts, yes, but you have to be very, very smart. You have to understand when to go for it, when to not go for it. And we talked about at times, throughout the last few years, if it's 3rd and 5, when everybody understands you have to get, 6 yards. But when you're running free, we don't need you to try to run a linebacker over or something like that, because that's how when you try to do that, even though it looks good and can, help you emotionally, physically, it will not work out. So, the biggest thing he can do is be very strategic about it and not live and die by it, but then also know when to use it and also know when to use it, make it a weapon, but not only a weapon for when you do use it, a weapon to where they have to prepare for it. So when it does happen, it's not, you just don't know when it's coming, because if you're running all the time, it's really good in the first quarter of the season, maybe the first third of the season. As you get going, teams start to really hone in on your what you do and your tendencies. So you want to make sure you keep them off balance.
We've seen the explosion of the quarterback run game over, let's just say, the last 15 years or so of football at both levels. Which is more important for an offense or more challenging for a defense to deal with? Is it the actual production that an offense gets and that a defense has to worry about? Or is it the threat that the offense can hold over the defense that they have to prepare for? Which is the bigger deal?
Yeah, if you have a really good conventional run game, and then obviously a quarterback, I guess, periodic run game, or you can run the quarterback as well. That's the hardest to deal with, because you are truly playing 11 on 11, and if you throw in the extra attribute that he's a viable passer, you're definitely in for a long day. And so, when you're able to establish both the conventional run game, that means from the quarterback exchange to giving to the running back, it doesn't matter what type of run scheme you run, inside, outside zone, gap scheme, or anything that you want to run. That really, puts a really hard onus on the defense to be able to prepare for, because the quarterback run game doesn't allow you to overload the box. It makes you win, or makes you have to win a one-on-one battle. They're really using your aggressiveness against you, and you have to be disciplined, from play in and play out for 4 quarters, and that's where you see the explosive runs come from. So, the more that you can put in their mind to prepare for, they kind of go hand in hand, to be honest with you, Austin, because you're not, if you don't have a running game, a regular conventional running game, your quarterback running game won't be very good. So if you only run the quarterback and you don't try to run it conventionally, that's not going to work either. So really it goes hand in hand, but the quarterback run game does give you more to prepare for. And that's what you want. Just when Nebraska rolls out every game, every week leading up to that game, the defensive coordinators and the players and the position coaches are definitely going to be looking for the quarterback run at some point, throughout the game or certain situations. Now, how do you offset that? You play either to your tendencies when you're really dominating people, or you can go away from your tendencies when you have other things rolling, and that's when you become dangerous, when you're not so predictable, but then more importantly, you're more efficient in your run game, and when you're dealing with the quarterback run game, because that's how you really get the big yards.
It's going to be fascinating to watch all year, but I think especially early in the year, Jay, when we watch Dana Holgorsen and the offensive staff put together a game plan to see how much they want to utilize Calandria and his legs, because you have a few young running backs that are challenging for playing time, that starting position, and any reps they can get, as we've talked about all camp long. I think there's a world in which Nebraska needs to rely on Anthony Calandria's legs more than they want early on as the young running backs get settled in. I know they've been on campus for a couple of years, not a whole bunch of reps underneath them. I could see a world where Nebraska says, hey, we're absolutely not relying on Anthony Calandria's legs. We're putting it on our offensive line. We're putting it on our running backs to figure it out, right? Well, we'll live with the results. We trust our defense enough. We trust our other weapons. And, hey, we trust our transfer quarterback enough to make enough plays that if we're not on schedule, it's not going to kill us until we get it figured out entering Big Ten play. But I think Nebraska also probably needs to know where they stand. If they want to use the quarterback run as a weapon in conference play, you can't just keep it on the shelf in non-conference and trust that you'll know how it works when the live bullets are flying. I think there's a really delicate balance for Nebraska's offensive staff to try to navigate through, to use the threat, to leverage the threat, to get production out of it, but also make sure that, week 1 and week 12, you have everyone healthy and productive as possible.
Yeah, I guess the good and bad thing is I don't even necessarily know if it's a bad thing. I think in the non-con, really, to be honest with you, where we're, at as a team, and this is offense, defense, and special teams, a lot of your, top-end players are going to have to play, maybe a little bit longer than normal. And that necessarily doesn't go, point directly to the quarterback run game, but it's really to the team. And really, in my opinion, in the non-conference, I think you need to establish your fundamentals or really, your foundation. You want to be a big, or you want to be a physical team. You want to be a disciplined team. Those are the things you really want to really, establish. Now, the quarterback run game, you got to really, sprinkle that in there. But I think the quarterback run game, for us, I don't think, we're going to live. It's not like the Cam Newton type of, when you have a defensive end, running it. I think with Calandra, you just let him naturally do his thing, right? But also how you call plays is really going to really be able to curtail that, because if we're trying to really work on our conventional run game, our continuity up front, you have the emergence of Gunnar Gatula. You're trying to see where he's at. You're trying to see if Tree's able to get back. You got all these things, these moving parts. You're trying to establish who's your really number one receiver, whether you have a 1A, 1B, and 1C. So it's kind of like, whatever, pick your poison. Where's our depth at receiver? The emergence of Quinn Clark, all those things. You talked about the tight ends before. So really the things of like the quarterback run game, in my opinion, because you have a natural quarterback that knows how to pick his spots and has done a really good job, at least in the Mountain West, of strategically running. Once he's able to break outside the pocket, he can throw it. And he's probably the most dangerous outside the pocket as far as throwing the ball, in my opinion, because things become a lot clearer and he's able to kind of put the defense in a no-win situation. Those are natural instincts. So I would really try to like to see how physical we are, how disciplined we are, how efficient we are, and how explosive can we be without, outside of the norm. Can we find some ways to be explosive, in between the hashes or in between the numbers or the number in the certain hash of the middle of the field. I'm working on that because I think those are the things that are going to lead you to the promised land, both early and late in the season.
The other part you mentioned at the end of last segment that I think is worth diving into is when Calandra has proven he can use his legs as a weapon and other teams have to account for him, whether it's with a spy or I know you've referred to a mush rush at times to keep him in the pocket. Yeah. What does that do for the run game as a whole? Obviously, it's an attempt to neuter and neutralize the quarterback run game. How does that affect what the offensive line and the running backs want to do in the conventional run game if a defense is playing the quarterback like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's in the passing game and stuff like that. I mean, obviously where you're going to mush rush and potentially have a spy or a short hook guy. But realistically, if you're able to beat that defense up physically, right, and really demoralize them with the conventional run game and your effort and intensity, and that's what you should be working on here in camp is really just who you are day in and day out. That's going to allow you to really have favorable matchups when they do have mush rush or whatever you want to call it, because they're going to be worn out. And if I'm an offensive line, I'm going to be expecting either high pressure, right? Because the way you defeat a quarterback that can actually, run and get out of the pocket is you're really disciplined on setting the edges or creating new edges, right? And then when you're blitzing, you're heating him up and making him get the ball out of his hands quickly in the passing game, and then rally and coming up and obviously making secure tackles. So that's what the offensive line I'm really looking at. How good are we in blitz pickup? How good are we in the regular, like as far as running game and passing things off? When we're trying to establish the run, because ultimately it's going to lean on us. We want to create running lanes and passing lanes for our quarterback that is anywhere from 5'10" to 6 foot tall, that he's able to throw the ball or get out out on the edges or run with confidence. Because just because a team is going to spy on Calandra doesn't mean automatically that he can't make somebody miss or that guy can't mess up, and so that's what you want to do is make sure that you have a clear lane for him. And obviously the plays that you're calling, you want to make sure, obviously all to his strengths to make him play that more aggressive, strategically aggressiveness. And what I mean by that is get him out on the edges, put the pressure on the defensive end or the outside linebacker or the flat defender to make a decision and give him easy passes. And then the explosiveness will come off of that.
Well, I think that goes into being a playmaker, right? Just because the team is going to spy him or whatever that looks like, that's why you go get a guy like Calandra that can make a play out on the edge. I think that, to me, is going to be really important, that if they are playing, 11 on 11 as opposed to 11 on 10, that goes a long way. And like we've talked about it a lot on this show, and I'm sure you've talked about it with others as well, Jay, just the importance of dudes making plays, right? Win enough one-on-one battles. Sometimes it's, one block. Sometimes it's getting off the ball. Sometimes it's making a contested catch. In this case for Nebraska, it might be Anthony Calandra putting the moves on, a bigger, slower linebacker, or being able to juke a safety that's coming down and run support, whatever that is, making a play, it's all across the roster, including the quarterback position sometimes.
Realistically, the things that he can do that really, there probably isn't what's going to be talked on social media, or we'll talk about it because obviously I'm able to watch the game from a different scope and lens, is the plays that, it's not even about making somebody miss. Being able to outrun a flat defender on 3rd and 3 and get 4.5 yards. Being able to get the sneaky first down to extend the drive or in the game. I talk about the 6 minutes before and 6 minutes after halftime, right? You can do 4-minute drill. You can do whatever you want, right? We've broken the game down 80 different times as far as, how we want to segment the game. Those are how you end games. If you have a quarterback that strategically can get you a first down to extend drives. Now, what does that do? That puts you in a better position if you have to eventually, punt the ball. It puts your defense in a better position to get you back the ball. You talk about the hidden yards, and one of the things that we used to obviously really put a big emphasis on, when I was at Nebraska and Coach Osborne did, Coach Beamer did it. Obviously at Virginia Tech, you saw how well their program was run. Georgia does with Kirby Smart. Every championship team talks about special teams and the hidden yards. It's a byproduct of all three phases working in unison and together. And that could be led by your quarterback, right? And in the more favorable position that you put your defense in, and your defensive players in, then you're able to allow them to pin their ears back. And, I was fortunate enough to play with the Grant Wishoms, the Jason Peters, the Mike Ruckers, the Jared Tomaches, and all those guys, the Terrell Farley, allow them to go, kill the quarterback. And so we were able to jump routes, make plays, get interceptions, tackles for losses, because we were all working in unison. And it starts with the quarterback play, but more or less of what he has operating upstairs above his shoulders is being strategic when he's running, defeating defenses that are set up for success for them and putting them, in a disadvantage. And he makes it an advantage for Nebraska. Is really going to be, probably the biggest evaluation piece I'm going to look for from him, because, look, whether people want to admit it or not, Dylan was pretty productive at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Very inexperienced, but productive, right? And there's two different things. Now, you can question, or, his leadership or how, his intentions and all that, that's probably inside those walls. They can only answer that. So, and right now they say the advantage is the Calandria. But I think the biggest thing I'm going to look for Calandria is, number one, is our quarterback position, to negative, right? And that's obviously something that, he has to remedy, and they have to harp on him with it. More importantly, where are the game-winning plays that will separate you from Dylan, Dylan's quarterback play to this year? Because that's what it's going to come down to. If everything remains equal, right? The offense is productive as it was last year from the, somehow from the running back position, even if you spread it out to Barney and those guys in other positions and the receivers, well, then we need more winning plays. And those winning plays necessarily aren't throwing 80-yard touchdowns, because you're in a too good of a league with too good of athletes to expect Nebraska all of a sudden to go and be Tom Brady and Randy Moss. So now you need to see the winning plays from the quarterback position, which is the sneaky first downs, the cause and effect, right? That allows Nebraska. It could be as simple as this, Austin. They pick up a first down or two on the road or at home that allows Archie to punt the ball down. You pin them down. You get a negative play on defense. Now they get a decent play on second down, but you're on third down. You're able to dial up a blitz that you worked on all week against a certain, type of protection, and you get a sack, a forced fumble, or you get an easy touchdown with a turnover. Everybody's going to look at the defensive turnover, but it was set up actually, in my opinion, by the sneaky first down that allowed, Brett Maher and company from the coaching standpoint to do something, from special teams that set up the defense to be successful.
It could be any of the 12 games, but Jay, that screams Illinois and Iowa to me.
So it does, Illinois, Iowa, and I think you throw in, in my opinion, it will look different, Washington and Rutgers. Washington would be a play that's going to put the nail in the coffin, right?
Okay.
Rutgers would be a play or plays to get the party started. because you're playing out in like New Jersey with like 5,000 people in the stands. But Illinois in Iowa, that's it, because you're beating them at their own game. And also you're beating them in ways that you actually beat yourself in years past. So that will show improvement. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense. We're up against the clock. Let's go ahead and take our final break of hour one. We'll talk some Justin Evans and Brent Venables to wrap up the hour. That's next on Old School.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Bagels and Joe is the best place to start off your mornings this summer, and you can order your breakfast ahead of time on their app. This summer's cream cheese flavor is pickle. Pair it with a blueberry cobbler iced latte, and don't forget their Berry Breeze dirty soda. Stop by any of their 4 locations in Lincoln and their location in Seward. Bagels and Joe.
Hi, Kendall Warnock here, owner of A1 Automotive. If you own a BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, or Mini, specialized service matters. Our team uses advanced diagnostic equipment, OE equipment, including factory-level software, to accurately diagnose and repair your vehicle. Dealer-level capabilities with hometown service. A1 Automotive, 1117 L Street. You can call us 402-477-4660.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, our passion. For happier, healthier, furry friends.
At Raising Cane's, we focus on making the most craveable chicken finger meals, getting them right every time. That's why we hand batter every chicken finger, mix every cane sauce, butter every Texas toast, stir every slaw, salt every fry, squeeze every lemon, and brew every ounce. We do this inside every Raising Cane's, every day. Because when you do it right, you can taste it in every bite. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
Buns overboard! Hey, it's not like it's a person. What's the big deal?
What? That was our only package of Village Hearth old-fashioned buns.
We may as well toss the hot dogs, too. Head for the shore.
Don't let soggy buns put a damper on your lake day. Practice food safety.
Village Hearth, in the land of 10,000 lakes, there's only one bun for your summertime fun.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built upon hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with room for advancement.
Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they're committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perchmerch.com.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels and Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels and Joe.
Why did Pete Ricketts spend millions to get himself appointed to the U.S. Senate? Ricketts knows D.C. is pay to play. Since going to D.C., Ricketts has increased his net worth almost 30%. he voted to lower his own taxes and made a killing dumping shares before a looming government shutdown. Meanwhile, he's opposed every serious attempt to ban congressional stock trading. Nebraskans can't afford lawmakers enriching themselves while our costs go through the roof. Tell Senator Ricketts to support the Ban Congressional Stock Trading Act now. This communication paid for by Nebraska Groundswell.
For remote starters, audio upgrades, and more, there's only one place to go. Auto Sounds of Lincoln at 48th and O.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back in as we wrap up hour one of Old School, brought to you by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. You see their information scrolling down on stream. You can call them 402-430-3852. Visit them online, heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Well, Nebraska football news, Jay. Justin Evans named a second-team preseason All-America selection by The Athletic. He's also on the Remington Trophy watch list, obviously a deserving representative for Nebraska at Big Ten Media Days as well. Been a heck of a journey for number 51 there on the offensive line, starting at guard, learning behind some good centers, moving to centers. You become a heck of a player and a real story of development growth that Nebraska can't just, sell to kids at home, but all across the country. Hey, come to Nebraska. We can develop you.
Yeah, I mean, I think his journey. I think he was I guess I'm gonna say a holdover recruit. Obviously, Mike Dawson recruited him out of the East Coast of New Jersey. He was a defensive lineman mainly in high school. He told the story, when we interviewed him on Big Ten Media Days, and one of his friends that unfortunately passed away told him that he would play offensive line. So he came to Nebraska, made the switch, and it's a great. Look into him as a person and a character. He dove into it, and obviously he didn't have a lot of experience. And obviously playing center, he did not do in high school that much. And so, he had to wait his turn and kind of find a way to, make some, hay on the offensive line, a different position, which was the guard position, be a jack of all trades. And it was able to watch and see, from Cam Jurgens to Ben Scott. And then when it was his time to play, he used his experience at guard to make him an even better center. And so that's what he talked about with us at the Big Ten Media Days, that he's able to really, check the guards and really help them grow as well by his experience of playing there. But then obviously he's turned into a heck of a center. And I think it really turned, for him, actually, when you talk about the schedule was, our first conference game is at Michigan State. It turned for him, in my opinion, the Michigan State game, I think it was, is when they really started making some hay with that kind of, we used to call it a jailbreak screen, a wide receiver screen, him showing the athletic ability to get out there in space and make some big blocks. Obviously that, parlayed, onto Maryland game. And then, more importantly, according to PFF, which isn't the end all be all because it's not truly true, but he has to be doing something right, is that he graded out as one of the top offensive linemen, not just the centers in the nation last year. So that's where you're able to get this, individual accolade, but also I think it's a byproduct of what they were able to do as an offensive line last year. When you might not get it in the time that it's happening. I mean, in Emmett last year, right? And then the offensive line took a lot of heat, but you get it afterwards when, he obviously goes on to the pros and they have to look back and say, okay, which offensive lines ran the ball effectively, which players along that offensive line were really good, and obviously he fits that script.
The other bit of news to get to here before we go to hour two, Oklahoma extends Brent Venables, gives him a couple extra years on that contract through 2031, and then gives him a pay bump to $10.5 million per year. Seems like Oklahoma's figured a little bit out, Jay. They make the college football playoff last year, but Brent Venables, some extra security.
Yeah, they were kind of creeping on that doorstep the year before. And I wouldn't say it was a make or break for him, but look, it has not really been a smooth sailing for him when he's been there in Norman. And I don't think it was set up to do so, where Lincoln Riley really, bled that roster of all their really good players when he obviously left to go to USC. And then obviously he had to come in late in the game. Obviously he was a defensive coordinator extraordinary down at Clemson, but now I think he's found his footing. I think they started to finally accustom and respect the work that he's done or what he's trying to do. And the breakthrough last year, sets him up for, 2 more years on his contract. And, he gets a pay bump and then he gets 2 more years. And obviously we've seen, that here in Nebraska. So, he's not all the way out of the woods. I mean, down in Oklahoma, they feel like they're, turning the corner. So, people think there's pressure here. There's a lot of pressure down there in Norman. And especially since they're in the, I say the second best league in the nation, in the SEC.
We'll go ahead and go to break with that. We have a text from Gorilla Bear that we'll get to kick off hour 2 of the show. On our Aloe Fiber VIP line, it is Jay Foreman, host of Old School. I'm Austin Norman. Hour 1 of Old School brought to you by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. We're jumping into hour 2 next.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they're committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perchmerch.com.
Good work, good people, good community. That's what Schwezo Construction is built on. For over 40 years, we've been constructing commercial spaces across Lincoln and showing up for the community long after the last brick is laid. We're growing our team, and we're looking for hardworking people who want to be part of something that they're proud of. Come build with us at schwezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
Looking for a fun way to give back? Join us for the 2026 Kicks for Kids Nebraska Fun Run Walk, presented by Pinnacle Bank, on Saturday, August 22nd at James Arthur Vineyard. Enjoy a scenic 5K through beautiful grounds. Every step helps provide shoes to kids in Lincoln and Lancaster County schools, with options for adults, wine included, and kids. Registration fees include a t-shirt, medal, and bag. Sign up today and make a difference at kicksforkidsnebraska.org.
Hey Husker fans, Coach Amy Williams here, thanking you so much for your support of Nebraska women's basketball. Season tickets go on sale August 17th, and we want you at PBA with us as we take the next step forward as a program. Our Huskers are hunting a school record-tying 4th straight NCAA tournament bid, and we want you there with us every step of the way. Get your season tickets at Huskers.com, and let's win the day at PBA. Go Big Red.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Here's your updated 93.7 The Ticket forecast, sponsored by Bryant Air Conditioning, Electrical, Heating, and Plumbing. Slight chance of thunderstorms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 87, west winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight, slight chance for storms, lows around 66. That's your updated forecast on Lincoln's home for the Kansas City Royals, 93.7 The Ticket. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster. Currently, it's 74 degrees.
Hey Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, 2-time national champion with Window World Lincoln. Are you ready to transform your home? We offer exceptional replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing that will elevate your home's curb appeal and value. As a nationally known, locally owned business, we treat you like family and work tirelessly to deliver the best for less. Don't wait to give your home the upgrade it deserves. Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or check out windowworldlincoln.com. Let's make your home the talk of the neighborhood.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill. Open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
The friends with Jim DeFreeze Auto Parts here in Lincoln would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from Jim DeFreeze Auto Parts here in Lincoln. Let's stay united and keep America safe and strong.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built upon hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with room for advancement.
Fun's overboard! Hey, it's not like it's a person. What's the big deal? What?
That was our only package of Village Hearth old-fashioned buns.
We may as well toss the hot dogs, too. Head for the shore.
Don't let soggy buns put a damper on your lake day. Practice food safety.
Village Hearth, in the land of 10,000 lakes, there's only one bun for your summertime fun.
The Friends with Simply Home Builders here in Lincoln would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from Simply Home Builders here in Lincoln, building amazing homes for our community for over a decade.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln. This is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers. Black shirts answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln. Your tire store next door with 4 Lincoln locations. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hour 2 of Old School show brought to you by Graham Tire rolls on right now. I'm Austin Orman on our Aloe Fiber VIP line, joined by the Husker Hall of Famer, the black shirt. It is Jay Foreman with us here on Old School. Again, brought to you by the good folks over at Graham Tire. As always, you can be a part of the show, 402-464-5685. That is the number to our Starter Heyman Jewelers. Text line Starter Heyman also supports our streams, including on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Allo Channel 961. Jay, we're headed to that Starter Heyman Jewelers text line to kick off something we were going to talk about anyways. Gorilla Bear wants to know, could Nebraska target any of the quote-unquote portal guys returning to college football from the NFL, as we're now in day 2 of that really being on people's radar right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be an option, or at least a conversation, because I think it was a Pryburn that's with Tampa. He's an option, and he's I guess an optimal option, meaning he was a very, very productive outside pass rusher edge at both Florida and LSU. I mean, who knows if LSU will be first dibs and to get him back, but he's a pretty good option. And I'm sure anybody you have to really discuss. And it's not just, hey, you call them up. I mean, if they're good players, I'm sure there's teams that are willing to take that risk. And it's not even a risk. They're just make that call to see if they have a roster spot for them. And then obviously enough, financial means to obviously make it worth his while. Now, I'd be very surprised if any of those guys that are the 5-for-5 guys that are, out there in the portal or the vortex or whatever you want to call it would demand, a significant amount of money, but it's going to be significant enough that you're going to not be able to pay them, peanuts to come and play and perform, especially, at big time positions. Say it's an offensive lineman and you're struggling at a position on the offensive line, and it's a guy that's been in NFL training camps, he's been through the NFL offseason, and he can come back and play for you. You have to, have that at the forefront of your discussion, especially if you view him as significantly better than the option that you have on your roster. And you're at a point that you want to make sure that you don't take advantage of the season opportunity by not making the effort to reach out and see if it's something that mutually can be beneficial to both the player and the university or the football team. So, look, I'm sure everything's on the table. It's not, as we've seen with Jamarcus Lawrence, it's not just something that, you want to do. You got to have the financial means to do so and the opportunity. We saw with Jamarcus Lawrence that, very early that I guess it was out there that Nebraska was going to move on as if he wasn't going to be available because it wasn't an option at that point. And obviously, very quickly it became an option, and the timing didn't end up right. And so it could be like that right now. You could be full, fully full as a roster, or what you're, I guess forecasting your salary cap to really have. And there's a player that you really know that could come in, or that could come in and be a viable option, you might just not be able to have a spot for him. So some things are going to have to, be done, I'm sure, but the conversations have to be had well before that.
The position of interest to me, if Nebraska were to go after someone out of this new NFL portal, if not the transfer portal, would be running back. Nebraska showed a willingness to bring a guy in, and I think it would be a completely different situation, but I think it's at least worth talking about because they did go make a late offseason addition to that room in Tyke Hayes before he was obviously rather unceremoniously dismissed from Nebraska within the last week. TJ Harden and Anthony Hankerson, two running backs. Harden has some Big Ten experience. He was at UCLA their first year in the Big Ten after 2 years out there in the Pac-12 before transferring to a darn good SMU program where last year he carries the ball 171 times for just shy of 800 yards and got 9 touchdowns. Hankerson starts his career at Colorado before going to Oregon State, where he was the workhorse for them. Yeah. He had about 480 carries, give or take, for over 2,100 yards and 24 touchdowns the last 2 years. Nebraska's going to say all the right things that they've said all offseason, being confident in that running back room. The young guys that are there, all they need is a chance. They're going to really take off. And I think that can all be true. They've got to put their money where their mouth is. But I do think if there is any interest from proven backs like TJ Harden or Anthony Hankerson, it would behoove Nebraska to at least reach out to their camps, even though it would be a little bit different of a situation than kind of the project that Tyke Hayes was thought to be.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys that, as far as the two that you mentioned, Hankerson and Harden, that have been very, very productive, come from good winning programs. I'm not so much at Oregon State, but obviously he was part of that Colorado, group that was pretty productive, and they know what it takes to, be successful at the college level. Now they, good enough to get a shot at the pros, they're able to come back to college. And so it's something that Nebraska has to really evaluate. At this point, it's a little bit late in camp. You have to weigh, okay, what's going to be the acclimation period? I think these two situations are drastically different than the Hayes situation. These guys are in shape. They've probably been running more complex offenses than college, or something actually similar, but it's just a bigger playbook. So you can assume the acclimation period, at least from learning the playbook, would actually be a lot faster, right? Because they've been in it versus, you come from Iowa Western where he was only there for like a short off season, had some issues at Iowa Western, and then you come here where these guys are coming in, no issues, looking for an opportunity. And then you have to weigh, okay, what have we seen from camp from, Jamal Rule, Nelson, Ives, Mosey, even like Booth, and then you compare to what you potentially or what you've seen from, like, say, some practice tape or obviously, preseason games from these guys that are going to be able to come back to college. And then will that stymie the growth of the present day running back room, or will it add to it if you only bring them in for a season? And then you got to expect, right? The goal would be that he is one of your top 2 or 3 running backs, and obviously probably one of your top 2 or 3 running backs that you're bringing on the plane for when you go to Michigan State. So the discussions have to be very fluid. They have to be very clear. And then obviously there's got to be a mutual interest there, because I think, those two, Pryburn, the outside rusher, any offensive lineman, that has a heartbeat and a pulse are going to be really, really sought after in the market. Now, in the market, what I mean is teams that are willing to go out there and approach these guys is probably a lot more than you'll hear about on the surface, right? And it's kind of like one of those things that you'll have 40 teams that'll be interested, only 10 of them be bold enough to actually make it known. And so do you want to be one of those 10 or the other 30? But really, if you're, one of the 40, you have to be ready to make the move if it's something you really want to do.
That's another important part, I think, to throw out on all this. We touched on it a little bit, but these guys aren't leaving NFL training camp. They're not going with their agent to the GM's office and asking to be cut now, as opposed to in a week or two, to come back to college just to kick it, right? These are guys that have their 5th year of eligibility that they want to use. Jay, they're going back to college expecting to play, expecting to further their draft stock. They're not just going to go back to college just for kicks and gigs, just to have a good time. They've been in the professional ranks. They know how cutthroat it is. They now have, real evidence about what they need to get better at to make it, not just in the college level, but at the NFL level. And so there's really no waiting around for those players that are coming back. They're going to want to get in, hit the ground running, and get stuff on film.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, if I was one of those guys, and I'm not going to go anywhere that I'm not going to play a lot. I mean, you really get, in this, if you only have one place to go and they say it's up in the air, then you really, the decision is made. But if you have multiple places that you can go, I'm going to go where it's the best spot. I know I'm going to get on the field, not only to, play well, to play, number one, because ultimately that's what they're coming back to do. Number two, I'm going to help the team. And then by helping the team, I'm going to help myself. And so that's also the conversations that's really huge. You don't want guys that are going to come in and really rock the boat and it's going to be all about them, X, Y, and Z. You want to get you guys that are come in and they're going to want to take advantage of the opportunity and add to your team. And look, the way college football is right now, and it's the whole thing, is, pretty much despicable. But, look, I'm glad the players are getting paid. I'm glad they're having the option to really exhaust all their eligibility. But the way it's, been brought about, really is because the courts are involved. And now, you're forcing players to make decisions. Now everybody's up in arms about, when, where they're coming from. But ultimately, it's really, put forth, in my opinion, by the networks and the amount of money that they're really throwing around the kids. They have no choice but to chase it and get it because they're making more now than potentially a lot of them would make ever in the NFL. And more importantly, at such an early age, they're really able to get, 10 steps ahead, moving forward at, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. You can't blame them. You just got to blame the process. And just because the process is messed up doesn't mean that the players shouldn't take advantage of it, or the universities as well. Look, the universities cannot have some moral, compass down. They've been doing dirty business for a long, long time, right? And the coaches have been leaving, players left out to dry. There's been universities that have blocked guys that, from transferring. So look, the game is the game and the players have got to play it. And also, if I'm a football program and I'm a head coach, ultimately my job is to put the best team out there with the best players and the best people and the best staff and the best assistant coaches and the best support staff. That's my job. How they get there really doesn't really matter now because the game and the purity of the game has been long gone for maybe, like I said, I always say that July 1st with Thomas Fedoni, that was 5 or 6 years ago. It's been long gone, probably even before that, but really since that judgment came down, 5 or 6 years ago, the game has certainly changed and is going to continue to do so.
The game has changed once again, Jay Foreman. Convenient for us as we're talking about this. Literally, as we come back on air, we get a notification of a ruling from the 10th Circuit that actually rules in the NCAA's favor, granting a stay request in that Colorado case. That was the one with the judge that granted the kind of sweeping nationwide injunction against the NCAA. Well, now an appellate court says, nope, just kidding. That doesn't work nationwide. You don't just have carte blanche. And so essentially what's happening now is this is from Sam Ehrlich, who's a Boise State professor in their College of Business. He says, class of 2022 athletes who exhausted their 4 years of eligibility this past spring are now ineligible unless they are a part of their own lawsuit or injunction. What does that mean? It means it's a free-for-all. It means it's gotten even more confusing. At least in that Colorado case, it was sweeping. It was nationwide. Hey, if you're petitioning for your 5th year, you got it. Now, every athlete that wants to play and use that 5th year of eligibility from the class of 22 needs to file their own lawsuit or join the injunction. If they're not named, then they don't get to play, which had been part of the rule. And so now it's going to be state by state. You're going to have different, calendars on the rulings for when they can actually go to a judge and have this lawsuit or this injunction heard and ruled on. And I think the Wild West might have just gotten even wilder.
Yeah, it's really like, you came in and said, I don't want anything to do with it, right? And I don't want you to have this power, nationwide, thinking that you're doing everybody a favor. Well, realistically, we saw it with, Trinidad, down there in Ole Miss. Like, look, you can get local judges to really work on the weekends. Matter of fact, you can get them work on Sundays, and you can get them out of church if you want to. So it is the Wild Wild West. The more that they keep making these decisions, right, and just why not just deal with it that it's sweeping for 2026? It is pretty much, we're in the middle of August, so that means, like, football calendar-wise, we're at September. And yeah, the basketball players go to 2026 and 27. Why not just deal with it? Now you just came back and made another decision, right? And it might be right that they had to do that, right, for legal reasons. But now you just created more chaos, more unknown, more uncertainty, more, like, decisions to be made that where people will get upset emotionally, right, where strings will be pulled and it'll be a hometown favorite judges, and depending on what state you're at and what now it's getting a little bit too, you bring kind of like politics into it. Why not just deal with it? You made a mistake. You decided to go 5 for 5. There's only 1 year or one class that kind of is able to take advantage of it and just let bygones be bygones. But instead, we're going to create more chaos. Obviously we broke the news on 10/18, and then we're going to be talking about it well into next week and into the season.
The problem is the problem, right? It's facing college sports that nobody knows what the rules are. But I think it is worth repeating that it didn't have to be this way, right? We've talked about this so many times about how, yes, now there's a new issue that's popping up in terms of eligibility, that now you have to file your own injunction. It's going to be state by state. It's going to be case by case, which, mind you, is the same thing that bogged down the NCAA for so long in the transfer system, that the NCAA finally said, screw it, we're done. We can't deal with all these appeals. We can't deal with all these waivers anymore. We're so backed up. It's not doing anyone any good. Blanket free transfer process. Now the NCAA seems to be fighting that same battle again, and for the time winning. But I think we're just going to end up getting to the same spot. We're just taking all those steps along the way. And I don't like it. I don't love it that that's the way it's worked out. But it seems like the NCAA continues to fight the same kind of losing battle, refusing to lose its lessons with more holes popping up in the dam that, could have just, re-cemented it, 20 years ago and things would have been better.
Yeah, it seems like the pettiness level is just keeps raising and raising and raising. And they just want to have, I think they want to have small victories just for the simple fact of the act that they're doing something versus just understanding, you might lose a couple battles, but trying to win the war. And it lets you know that there's nobody out there operating for the good of the game. So when they say that, it's almost laughable. They're not doing what's best for the student athletes or the young men and women that are coming into college. They're doing what's best for them in their pockets. Now, sure, the problem is the problem, but you've been knowing the problem is the problem for, correct me if I'm wrong, probably over like 50, 60 years.
Probably. Yeah.
I know it was, right? And you were okay with the problem being the problem when you were making billions of dollars and everybody else was getting taken advantage of. Now people are taking advantage of, a situation or taking too much advantage of a situation like you were. Now it's a problem. Now it's like going back and forth when realistically, the best thing that could happen is that potentially they just put a pause on all college sports and stuff like that. And then the networks will settle down and they come back with a true process and a plan that's going to be better for everybody involved. But you would need leadership with that. You would need some people with some vision. You would have to have humility. You would have to have people from different backgrounds talking. You would have to have representation. So that's never going to happen. So we're going to be talking about this, Austin, 5 years from now. It'll be something else. And I'm going to say this. I'm making a prediction. By the time I'm 55 years old, so that's over 5 years from now.
What if we give it 6 years to get to 56?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Matter of fact, that's a great point. 56 years old. There will be in-season transfers. I'm telling you right now, it's coming. There will be in-season transfers. It will be pretty much a breeding ground for whatever professional sports you're associated with. And I'm going to come back or we'll be on because we'll still be rocking and rolling at 93.7 The Ticket. And we'll be able to tell people I told you so. We won't get anything for it, but we'll be the profits.
Al, how's that working then? Do you have to trade? Is it just a transfer? Do you stick your new player in the one that you had to trade out back in their dorm room or in their house with their roommates? How's that going to work?
It's the one. It'll be based on the class load that you have, and then that which will allow you to transfer. Like everybody will take just generic classes, probably general ed. You'll have like your in-season class, and then it'll get a little shaky with basketball, but ultimately football, that's what it'll be.
And of course, there's going to have to be a deadline, right? Week 6, week 7.
Yeah, it would have to be, 1 or 2 games. Yeah, you'll have to have that. What'll happen? You'll have a universal bye week, right? It'll probably be like week 5 or 6, or in between 5 to 6, or 6 to 7. So people can obviously get to the new destination.
That leads me to then as we get a college football all-star break, and we have college football's version of the Pro Bowl. Yeah,
exactly. That would be. It would be actually the transfer portal, or the I don't know what you would call them, but yeah, it would be a transfer portal week, and it has to be, maybe it's within the conference, so then everybody's kind of aligned on how many conference games you played at that point, or when you're able to transfer it, or to be honest with you, if a player is able to do it, especially if he's a graduate, like a post grad, senior, then it'll be something where you have to maybe give up some NIL money. But it definitely will be an option, because why would that not be on the table when you're able to go play in the pros and come back when you have eligibility left?
We got this from Barney on the Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. He says, the thing that really stinks is that it's trickling down into youth sports now as well. We talked a little bit about the Lincoln prep scene on Monday, Jay, with Lincoln East win in the Allegiant World Series. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, youth sports, we talk about this all the time as well. What the adults in the room do, and we mean adults, obviously, in terms of grown-ups, but also just the power brokers in the sport. What happens at the pro level trickles down to college, trickles down to high school, trickles down to youth. The incentive structures have been put in place. We know what is incentivized in sports right now. It was only a matter of time before these issues found their way to youth sports, and that's not necessarily for the better.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the youth sports is a little bit different because the club scene is, especially in Nebraska, where it's very, very unique. It's drastically different than Minnesota. You would not have one group running the whole state. There's too many good players. There's too many good clubs. And so that would never happen. And so that's not a bad thing here in Nebraska, but sometimes that can dictate into high school sports. And then you top it on you're really, kind of really clamping down on who can coach high school sports. There's not any regulation on the coaches. And so then you have players transferring, and now you saw a lot of mass exodus, from kids from Lincoln going off to Omaha to play at, not only Millard South, West Side, or better yet, now Millard North and other schools, to get an opportunity to try to go to college and further their education and play the sport that they love. And so, it's a little bit like college football, but then also I think it's a byproduct of the system here locally in Lincoln, which then obviously forces people to make a decision. When you don't adapt, you force people to adapt when you don't have any type of communication or, I guess, opportunity for guys to further themselves. You can't blame anyone. You can't blame, you can't blame the parents and the players. You can't blame LPS. I mean, you could probably, question LPS. You can't blame them. It's work for LPS. It's what they want to do. It's the environment they want to create. What's important to them is important to them, and it's not necessarily education based, but it's what they chose to do. But then also, when people react to that or they chose to do look otherwise, it's just a byproduct of the system. And so, what you do in the pros, which is free agency and coaches moving all the time, players moving all the time, is trickle down to college and it's trickled down to high school. And obviously people have the same reaction. They really don't like it, but ultimately it's just part of it, because if you expect a kid that wants to, has the ability and the want to go play any form of sport at the next level, to sit around and not try to get exposure to do so, why would you even say that? Why would you even think that? Now, because you wouldn't question the people that aren't giving them the opportunity to do so. So why you question a kid that wants to go do better themselves? So, it's not apples to apples, but you're seeing a byproduct of it, and it's all the way down to the Pee Wee leagues. I was just my brother who's a doctor. He lives in Tennessee. He's telling me a story that with 2 kids, that they got off-season training and stuff like that. And he's, another county is recruiting a couple of his kids on his, 4th grade football team to, go play and try to make an all-star game. It's happening. And, it's not going to stop. You just got to be able to adapt.
Last thing then for you, Jay, here we get this from 1508. He asked, do you see non-Power 5 programs getting some compensation for Power 4 schools taking their players since they feel like a minor league system now? I know you've been big on the transfer fee model, the promotion relegation for teams as well, borrowing from what goes on in the Premier League and European soccer. But what do you think would be more important, more valuable to these group of 5 or group of 6 schools? Would it be, the transfer fee and getting the money, the recouping some of the value in that way? Or would it be more valuable to get an additional player, right? More of a trade, not just cash considerations. What do you think goes further for the group of 6 in college football specifically?
Well, I think if you're able to find, I call them watering hole programs that you're able to, really depend on and really trust, or just any of them, I think it's the money, because I think that, if you can really, I guess, embrace, who you are at those levels, the money will help you because it'll give you more NIL money, the little that you'll get to be able to get players there, and you'll be able to develop them in your process more readily. So when they're able to hopefully move on to the, Power 4, they're ready to do so, and you'll be able to provide different amenities that it's going to be appealing to them. So sure, you'd like to go, player to player, but sometimes the players that, go down really shouldn't even have been at the level, at the FCS level. They just somehow ended up at the Power 4, and they really should be down at the Division 2 or even lower. So if I'm a coach, I want, the transfer fee, because I want to try to obviously recoup the resources that I put into the, young man or young woman, if they, obviously it's a different sport. But then also I want to use that to continue along that process. If I'm really going to be, this kind of minor league system breeding ground for players that potentially could go to the Power 4. Now, listen, not every player that I come in and that I get a lot of resources or be able to recruit resources and then put into another player situation will end up being good enough to go to it. But they could definitely be a viable player at that level. And then that's how you build a James Madison, and then you don't keep getting plucked, because some players will actually, strive and maybe stay there an extra year, right? Just imagine if you have a player that, maybe has some offers, but you know what, he needs to develop. Maybe he needs to get a little bit bigger, a little bit better at his game. Maybe there's a lot of Power 4 quarterbacks that are in the transfer portal, pool that year, but not the next. It's kind of like you're declaring for the draft, but just at the FCS level or whatever level of Division 2 going up to the Power 4.
There you go. That's Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman on our Aloe Fiber VIP line. Jay, coming back, or we letting you go here?
We got one more, and then I have to start getting my little old dads over 50 moving on.
Sounds good. All right, Jay Foreman back for one more segment here on Old School. We'll be back with him right after this.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Why did Pete Ricketts spend millions to get himself appointed to the U.S. Senate? Ricketts knows D.C. is pay to play. Since going to D.C., Ricketts has increased his net worth almost 30%. He voted to lower his own taxes and made a killing dumping shares before a looming government shutdown. Meanwhile, he's opposed every serious attempt to ban congressional stock trading. Nebraskans can't afford lawmakers enriching themselves while our costs go through the roof. Tell Senator Ricketts to support the Ban Congressional Stock Trading Act now. This communication paid for by Nebraska Groundswell.
Hey, Husker fans, Coach Amy Williams here, thanking you so much for your support of Nebraska women's basketball. Season tickets go on sale August 17th, and we want you at PBA with us as we take the next step forward as a program. Our Huskers are hunting a school record-tying 4th straight NCAA tournament bid, and we want you there with us every step of the way. Get your season tickets at Huskers.com, and let's win the day at PBA. Go Big Red.
Hey, Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, 2-time national champion with Window World Lincoln. Are you ready to transform your home? We offer exceptional replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing that will elevate your home's curb appeal and value. As a nationally known, locally owned business, we treat you like family and work tirelessly to deliver the best for less. Go Don't wait to give your home the upgrade it deserves. Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or check out windowworldlincoln.com. Let's make your home the talk of the neighborhood.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
Next time you have a heating or cooling problem, plumbing or electrical issue, just one call to Bryant takes care of everything. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
If you like freedom and you like floors, ditch the box stores and shop Freedom Floor and find the best luxury vinyl, tile, hardwood, laminate, carpet, and experts at Freedom Flooring. Visit our showroom at 4815 South 14th Street in Lincoln. If you like freedom and you like floors, ditch the box stores and shop Freedom Flooring, a Shaw Floors dealer.
Good work, good people, good community. That's what Shweezo Construction is built on. For over 40 years, we've been constructing commercial spaces across Lincoln and showing up for the community long after the last brick is laid. We're growing our team, and we're looking for hardworking people who want to be part of something that they're proud of. Come build with us at Shweezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Here's your updated 93.7 The Ticket forecast, sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Slight chance for storms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 87. Northwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Slight chance of thunderstorms tonight, lows level off around 66, partly cloudy skies. That's your updated forecast on Lincoln's home for the Kansas City Royals. 93.7 The Ticket. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster. Currently, it's 76 degrees.
The Friends with Jim DeFreeze Auto Parts here in Lincoln would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from Jim DeFreeze Auto Parts here in Lincoln. Let's stay united and keep America safe and strong.
Fun's overboard! Hey, it's not like it's a person. What's the big deal?
What? That was our only package of Village Hark old-fashioned buns.
We may as well toss the hot dogs, too. Head for the shore.
Don't let soggy buns put a damper on your lake day. Practice food safety.
Village Hearth, in the land of 10,000 lakes, there's only one bun for your summertime fun.
The Friends with Simply Home Builders here in Lincoln would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from Simply Home Builders here in Lincoln, building amazing homes for our community for over a decade.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill. Open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
Back to old school with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in as we are about halfway through the show here on Old School. Big thanks to the folks at Shweezo Construction, where safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Shweezo is hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back both on and off the job site. Apply today at Shweezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com. 40-plus years strong in business, Shweezo Construction. Well, Jay, as we talk about building, seems like the feds are really building a case against Mark Walter, who is in absolute panic mode, it seems, right now, as the now former owner of the Lakers still owns the Dodgers. He's selling off everything. What in the world is going on in La La Land with the Lakers family drama, Steve Ballmer evading punishment, wild times in LA?
Yeah, man, I think, these guys that are able, I wouldn't say come out of nowhere and, hit it at the peak. Obviously Walter was able to really cash in on some of like that local insurance, statewide insurance money. And obviously he owns some of the Dodgers, majority owner, I think, in the Dodgers, and obviously owns in the Chelsea Football Club over there in Europe. And then obviously he was, for a little, under 14 months, the majority owner with the Lakers. And then when the thing bottoms out, then, you got to kind of pay the piper, and he's at, panic mode. And, when you're really trying to gather up billions of dollars, those are definitely not reality world problems, but obviously it really, stains the look on the Lakers. And, Ballmer was able to kind of, the skin on the chin, or the little hairs on his chin, to get out of that. And then I'm assuming Kawhi Leonard will be as well. But with the Lakers, is an iconic, franchise where, look, when you look at, the show, the reality show, I think it was on HBO, how Mr. Buss bought the team, kind of like the Cowboys and Jerry Jones was like a big gamble. Obviously it paid off in huge, franchise that everybody looks at with class and dignity and the excellence, that it had been in the past. And obviously the Buss family has been running the show. And then you have infighting between, Jeannie Buss, who's been there day to day, and then the other family members. And she kind of, I think the way I read it, that Walter was, appealing to her. He kind of gave her what she wanted. But then on the flip side, it kind of screwed over the rest of the family. And then they tried to get her back. And now it's all in flux. I don't know who's who. I just read something this morning where the owner or person that owned 4% of the Lakers has now decided not to sell it. So I imagine Jeannie Buss has probably approached him or her about purchasing that 4% to kind of recoup, at least some 25-something% into it, so she can remain the day-to-day and the governor, or potentially try to buy it back for whoever, might purchase it. So it's really an ugly look on the Lakers and what's going on inside the Lakers, which, really is a reflection at times of some of the moves that they've made, in and around LeBron James. And then it's also on the NBA. When you think of, they really probably should do a really good job of vetting, not only the business practices, but, the people that are coming in and buying, these franchises, from, was it Rob Sterling or whatever Sterling that owned the Lakers, or the Clippers, was able to get away with some things that are diabolical for, decades and a quarter of a century. You would have thought that, okay, anybody and everybody that comes in is that's going to be able to purchase some of these franchises are not only going to be good people, but have their, ducks in a row as far as business-wise. Because you're not only looking at the Lakers and the Clippers, you're looking at the new Portland Trailblazer owner where, some of the things that are just kind of like in the unwritten rules or the bylaws of, the things that you do with playoff teams, the things you do with coaches, how much you buy, pay coaches, how you operate on a day-to-day basis is not a viable option when you're the Portland Trailblazers located in Portland. So you're already working, against, the location issue as far as being able to get free agents there, and let alone good coaches there, when you're really undermining them and paying them less than that's going on the market value. So, for Adam Silver, it's another issue that he has to try to tackle this summer before they start to get into the regular season, because they have the competition now, not throughout the whole year from the NFL. It's not only the NHL that's been kind of, obviously taking off. MLB, they have a big, obviously, labor agreement going on, but there's some excitement there. More importantly, they've lost their stronghold on Christmas Day and Christmas days as far as the NBA. And you can't really come and get that back when everybody's focusing on one of your top, 2 or 3 franchises, maybe 4 franchises over the NBA's history that is in flux now with ownership, and you have no power as a governor or as a commissioner to really right the wrong.
Family drama or drama in the front office is one thing. We see that all the time across sports, right? Think about the other side of the country in New York, all the drama, the James Dolan has put the Knicks through in his time in charge. But guess what? He got the front office figured out, and the Knicks win the title last year. I think the NBA, Jay, can deal with drama, with family drama, as long as the money's good. But if the money's not good, that's when it's a black eye on the league. And that's where, okay, the Buss family drama is interesting. But to me, that's kind of the side story. If the Lakers are in financial trouble, or the Lakers were sold to a guy who is in financial trouble potentially, and he's got to sell off, I don't think the league wants teams changing hands like that, unless, of course, hey, he's going to get $12.5 billion instead of the $10 billion that he paid for it. The NBA loves valuations going up, but they also have to know they're on stable financial footing, that their owners aren't going to be under attack by the Department of Justice or whoever for doing some fishy financial stuff.
Yeah, majority, franchise owners in any sport, they don't buy these teams to flip them. This is just like stuff they brag about when they're at like the yacht club or whatever they go hang out, like the cigar lounge. The only person I think runs it on a day-to-day basis is really Mike Brown in the Cincinnati Bengals. And, he's obviously, keeping a stronghold on that. So, yeah, you don't want guys that, hedge funds guys to come in. And you've seen also with the Phoenix Suns, too, with that situation down there. You don't want guys coming in and, really, kind of, I call it paper pimping, the financials. And then next thing you know, 2 or 3 years later, not only do you have, issues inside the building or inside the franchise, but then also financial issues as well. So, yeah, the NBA has to look at, what these guys are doing, take the family drama and put it to the side, because there's even stuff like, remember with the Celtics, I think it's off season or two, ago where, they obviously were able to fire their coach and it was more or less a morality cause of the owner and stuff. And so that is family issues. It's the business practices and the funny money, but then more importantly, no commissioner wants the government or the feds coming in and checking out their franchise owners, because you expect all you guys are upstanding billionaires and are able to operate these things like your little side toys that you brag to other billionaires about, that you're owning one or many teams in different leagues.
All right, Jay, we'll let you go. Stretch, hydrate, get ice, get heat, whatever it is you need. Don't pull anything, don't break anything. Enjoy your day. Thanks for hopping on. We'll talk to you Monday.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
There he goes. That's Husker Hall of Famer, black shirt NFL vet Jay Foreman with us on our Aloe Fiber VIP line. Oh, by the way, also the host of Old School here on 93.7 The Ticket. Jay's handling some business, so we'll have Box step in to start the 11 o'clock hour, where we're talking plenty of Nebraska basketball. 7 weeks from today. Nebraska back in Pinnacle Bank Arena for its first exhibition against St. Louis. We'll give you 7 things for 7 weeks to watch for Nebraska men's basketball, but your chance to win some tickets to the Lincoln Salt Dogs comes up next as we wrap up hour 2 of Old School.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
It's hard to choose a favorite at Hog Wild, but I'd have to say it's their award-winning ribs. Hog Wild buys their meat from those who share their high-quality standards, then hand rubs each slab with their famous seasoning blend and slow smokes them over hickory each and every day for flavor and tenderness you're going to keep coming back for. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers, and if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Visit any part of Southeast Nebraska, and you've seen the impact of an SEC grad. At Southeast, we're redefining the community college experience. You'll do more than build a career. You'll build the place you call home. An SEC grad had an expert who did more to build them up, to focus their drive, to shape their resolve. Southeast Community College. Let's do more.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has 0 hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com. If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
If one of the things running through your mind as a business owner is the recurring worry of possible cyber attacks, you can let out a sigh of relief. Hamilton Business Technologies has you covered. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we offer real-time threat monitoring, advanced security protocols, and more to keep your data safe from harm. We care about the success of Nebraska businesses and communities like yours. Learn how we can help you at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
When the lights go out, every minute matters. Powerline helps LES respond to outages faster by linking your phone number to your service address. Get ready before the next outage at les.com/powerline.
If you like freedom and you like floors, ditch the box stores and shop Freedom Floor and find the best luxury vinyl, tile, hardwood, laminate, carpet, and experts at Freedom Flooring. Visit our showroom at 4815 South 14th Street in Lincoln. If you like freedom and you like floors, ditch the box stores and shop Freedom Flooring, a Shaw Floors dealer.
Hi, Sean Callahan here with Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and new Sierra and Silverado trucks continue to roll in, and August is a great time to upgrade. Right now, get new GMC Sierras for under $50,000 or get 2.9% financing for 72 months plus $1,500 bonus cash. Visit us in Louisville or anytime at koppelcars.com. Stock number G306367 with approved credit.
Here's your updated 93.7 The Ticket forecast, sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Slight chance for storms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 87. Northwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Slight chance of thunderstorms tonight, lows level off around 66, partly cloudy skies. That's your updated forecast on Lincoln's home for the Kansas City Royals. 93.7 The Ticket. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster. Currently, it's 76 degrees.
Building a new home can be a challenge, a lot of big choices. With our Remington homes, we have designed 15 different floor plans that appeal to a wide range of people.
Bob Benish of Aspen Builders, talking about Remington Homes, which makes the home building process easier.
People really enjoy being able to go to our website, which is remingtonlincoln.com, pick a plan, pick a price point, go through and build it yourself. You have a lot of options, whether you want granite, painted trim, wood floors, more stone, all options with our Remington homes. People do not want to be married to their house payment. You're able to get what you really want in a home for a great price with very limited stress. And that's what Remington homes are all about.
Home building is easier with a Remington home from Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at remingtonlincoln.com. remingtonlincoln.com.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in as we wrap up hour 2 of Old School. Full another hour yet to go. Austin Orman here, joined now by Jake Bachman. Bach, happy Friday. How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Like you said, it's Friday, so everybody's pretty happy getting to the weekend. And, of course, every one of our last weekends, you better get some stuff done if you can, because here coming up, it's going to be tough.
That it will. 2 weeks and a day from kickoff between Nebraska and Ohio. Still baseball season in some ways to me, dang it. So we're going to ask a baseball trivia question. Still baseball season for our friends at the Lincoln Salt Dog. We've got some tickets to give away for tonight's game, Saturday and Sunday. So first person in with the correct answer to the following question will earn 4 tickets to the Lincoln Salt Dogs game either tonight, tomorrow, or Sunday. You'll have to let us know which day you want. But on this day, 95 years ago, Babe Ruth hit his 600th career home run. How many Major League Baseball players are members of the 600 career home run club? How many Major League Baseball players are in the career 600 home run club? Let us know on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line, 402-464-5685. First person in with that correct answer wins the tickets to the Salt Dogs. And holy cow, responses are rolling in. Eric says bleep baseball. No, Eric, no thank you.
Okay.
D-Man, it is more than 3. Elisa's dad, it is fewer than 19. So there's your range, somewhere between 3 and 19. Obviously, Bach, Babe Ruth starts his career off with your Boston Red Sox. They were the story of baseball there for a while. Are they still as hot as they were? Have they cooled off back to the pack? Where are they at?
They've cooled off a little bit, but they're back. They've won their way enough into being, I think, 5.5 up in the wild card. So in a good position still, especially from where I thought they were going to be. But when you mentioned Babe Ruth and the Red Sox, man, that's still a tough pill to swallow. It always will be.
It broke your heart back in the day.
Oh, not necessarily. It's just. Man, it's tough as a Red Sox fan, combating the Yankees. It's weird because that's where I think I was thinking about this the other day. You can throw like Evil Empire out there and throw it. Part of that is just admitting that your team is not as good as that team. Like you can't historically argue that. So instead of, hey, you guys suck, it's, you know what? You guys are evil. And I think that's a good approach.
We have the answer from Nebrasketball fan on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. The answer is 9. Bach, outside of Babe Ruth, how many of the 9 do you think you could name?
Probably not as many as I'd like to, but I know Barry Bonds.
Hey, Barry Bonds.
McGuire.
Not Mark McGuire.
Not McGuire. Wow, okay.
The other guy in that 98 home run chase.
Sosa. Okay.
And Ruth, so there's 3 of the 9.
Yeah. Let's see. As I try to think back in the day. Pujols?
Pujols is there. He's one of 4 in the 700 home run club.
Okay. Hank Aaron.
Yep, Hank Aaron. You have 3 guys that I would say are probably best known for their exploits in the 90s and 2000s, and 1 guy from the 50s.
50s. Gosh, that's going to be tough.
Might be better known for a spectacular catch than home runs, but he was certainly prodigious with the power as well.
Gosh darn it, I'm not going to get
I'll
there.
give you Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. Oh,
Willie
okay,
Mays,
yeah,
660 of them.
All right.
You have 1 guy with 696, 1 guy with 630, and 1 with 612.
I can just throw out some, I don't.
One played for the Yankees.
And then in the 90s, 2000s?
90s, 2000s.
A-Rod.
A-Rod,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, should have got that one.
Okay.
Not Rafael Palmeiro?
It is not Palmeiro. I like
Okay.
the guess, though. Jim Thome at 612.
Oh, man, I would have forgot about that one.
And Ken Griffey Jr. at 630.
How about that? There we go.
Mailman was in at that one there at the end. Eric says most things Boston are evil except Mark Wahlberg.
That's fair enough. Again, from whatever perspective you might be looking at it, I disagree.
I say, how did you come by your Boston fandom? I mean, your Red Sox and Celtics.
I just kind of like the logos and all that, but originally it was Nomar. Actually,
There we go.
My friend got an award playing whatever it was, 8-year-old baseball. He got this Nomar Garcia Parr award, and I started looking into it. And he was actually on when you mentioned Ken Griffey Jr. It's funny, he was on the. So there's a little Game Boy game. I don't know if people played Game Boy back in the day.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Ken Griffey, yeah. They had all the rosters, and it was Garcia Parr's rookie year. So I especially, I don't know. I always kind of liked catching on a younger guy and being like, okay, and now I can kind of experience the whole thing. And so that's how I've become a Red Sox fan. And then, at the time they had Pedro and I got Manny shortly after that. So it was just kind of a fun group. And then the Celtics, I like a lot of people, was kind of a players guy more early on. But that was until the Celtics and Nets had a run in the playoffs. Eric Strickland was actually on the Celtics at the time. But what drew that to me more was just the vitriol in that series. The Nets fans were chanting at Paul Pierce because he had been stabbed several times. Yes, that's what was going on the day. And the Boston fans were cheering back at Jason Kidd because he had some domestic violence things going on. So it was a very heated NBA series, as often is the case, that drew me in. And I said, you know what, I'll take these teams. Unfortunately, never caught on with the Patriots. Would have been maybe my best decision. And I chose the Cardinals instead. So that was a big mistake.
Elaine Train is going to set up our next hour perfectly. Austin, you're stupid. Why is the headline talking about basketball when it's football season, with all sorts of exclamation points? Because gosh darn it, we're 7 weeks away from Nebraska basketball's first scrimmage, because we spent the entire first hour and a half of the show talking all things Nebraska football, because that is, of course, on our minds. And yes, we have plenty of questions, but hey, we like to talk Nebraska basketball too. We're 7 weeks away from the scrimmage, and darn it, we're going to talk some Nebraska basketball. Bach, I have 7 things to watch for the 7 weeks until Nebraska men's basketball takes on St. Louis. We'll get into that, and maybe you can hand out your Brandon Richardson Award for youth basketball for getting kids into Nebraska basketball. That's all ahead in hour 3 of the show.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Let me share something to make life just a little easier. It's just one word, Bryant. If we need service on our furnace or AC, we call Bryant. Same thing goes for an electrical issue. If I have a problem with my faucet, a toilet, a drain, or a water heater, I don't need to know how to fix something. I just need to know who to call. And at our house, it's Bryant.
Bryant's Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. Just one call. 467-1111. Remember, we do whatever it takes.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
When the lights go out, every minute matters. Powerline helps LES respond to outages faster by linking your phone number to your service address. Get ready before the next outage at les.com/powerline.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
If one of the things running through your mind as a business owner is the recurring worry of possible cyber attacks, you can let out a sigh of relief. Hamilton Business Technologies has you covered. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we offer real-time threat monitoring, advanced security protocols, and more to keep your data safe from harm. We care about the success of Nebraska businesses and communities like yours. Learn how we can help you at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Building a new home can be a challenge, a lot of big choices. With our Remington homes, we have designed 15 different floor plans that appeal to a wide range of people.
Bob Benish of Aspen Builders, talking about Remington Homes, which makes the home building process easier.
People really enjoy being able to go to our website, which is remingtonlincoln.com, pick a plan, pick a price point, go through and build it yourself. You have a lot of options, whether you want granite, painted trim, wood floors, more stone, all options with our Remington homes. People do not want to be married to their house payment. You're able to get what you really want in a home for a great price with very limited stress. And that's what Remington homes are all about.
Home building is easier with a Remington home from Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at remingtonlincoln.com. remingtonlincoln.com.
Looking for a fun way to give back? Join us for the 2026 Kicks for Kids Nebraska Fun Run Walk, presented by Pinnacle Bank, on Saturday, August 22nd at James Arthur Vineyard. Enjoy a scenic 5K through beautiful grounds. Every step helps provide shoes to kids in Lincoln and Lancaster County schools, with options for for adults, wine included, and kids. Registration fees include a t-shirt, medal, and bag. Sign up today and make a difference at kicksforkidsnebraska.org.
Constructors is now hiring for all positions with pay starting at 23 and up based on experience. Constructors has immediate job openings for mechanics, bridge builders, operators, and drivers. Start your new career today. Constructors offer great pay, health, dental, and vision, paid time off, paid holidays, and so much more. Join the crew today and be a part of Nebraska's oldest paving company dating back to 1908. For a complete list of openings and to apply online, visit constructorslincoln.com.
Hey Husker fans, Coach Amy Williams here, thanking you so much for your support of Nebraska women's basketball. Season tickets go on sale August 17th, and we want you at PBA with us as we take the next step forward as a program. Our Huskers are hunting a school record-tying 4th straight NCAA tournament bid, and we want you there with us every step of the way. Get your season tickets at Huskers.com, and let's win the day at PBA. Go Big Red.
Good work, good people, good community. That's what Schweizel Construction is built on. For over 40 years, we've been constructing commercial spaces across Lincoln and showing up for the community long after the last brick is laid. We're growing our team, and we're looking for hardworking people who want to be part of something that they're proud of. Come build with us at Schweizel.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Mo's Moving is now Mo's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has 0 hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
The Friends with Communication Systems Solutions here in Lincoln remind you that the need for blood continues daily. Unfortunately, our blood banks are extremely low. Our community and our country depend on life-saving donors like you. You are eligible to donate every 56 days, and with each donation, you save up to 3 lives. Please go online and schedule an appointment to donate blood today. Thanks to Communication Systems Solutions here in Lincoln for making this message possible. They are a shining example of why America is a strong nation.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Coy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score. Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers.
Black shirts answer the call one more time. And Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln. Your tire store next door with 4 Lincoln locations. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right, into hour 3 of Old School we go. The debate is raging in the text line in the comment section. Is it too early to talk about Nebraska men's basketball? Well, I say no, so we're going to do it. We also did have some questions from Bill and Bennett. In fact, is it too early to start talking Husker baseball also? Well, it's just around the corner. No, I'm kidding. We will not do Husker baseball. Fall ball is, of course, on the radar, but not right here. Dave Braska, thanks for talking about Husker men's basketball. I'd rather hear about both basketball programs than football right now. It's a nice little change up. So, Lane, guess what? You're outnumbered. Brad Fitzgerald says the same thing. If we're talking Nebraska basketball 7 weeks out, that's a good thing, and it's for a good reason. Bach, it's not like Nebraska's firing a coach or Nebraska, in turmoil or anything 7 weeks before the first scrimmage against St. Louis. It's a good thing. There's genuine excitement about this basketball program. 3 consecutive 20-win seasons. The historic season that the program had last year by its own standards. All good things, right now for Husker basketball. All sunshine and rainbows.
Well, I mean, you're coming off a Sweet 16. You're the best year in Nebraska basketball history, at least as far as, advancing in the tournament. And so, you're going to have to get used to it. There's going to be more talk around Nebraska basketball or in any program that rises to that level, and especially like we understand where basketball is in the realm of things. So, it is in now you're going to, be facing preseason expectations, done pretty well to your point with, with Hoiberg and kind of bringing back consistency. I don't want to say it, but I also still kind of think back to those Tim Miles years where, particularly, the one where after the tournament year, and we call it the tournament year, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But when you had guys that you expected or you felt, hey, we got our big three, and none of them played quite as well as they did the previous year. So hopefully we don't get into any of that this year. And I think Nebraska's got some depth that'll help out. But it's going to be a fun ride.
We'll get the show on the road here in just a sec, but first we want to shout out our good friends, our good folks over at Graham Tire Company, celebrating 75 years of serving the Midwest. More than just tires, they do all kinds of car and light truck repairs too. From brakes to oil changes, trust Graham Tire for service you can count on. It's Graham Tire getting you to the places that matter most. 402-464-5685, your Nebraska men's basketball thoughts with the first scrimmage, the first exhibition being 7 weeks away. Bach, I came up with 7 things over last night and this morning. They're not necessarily to monitor through the first 7 weeks. They're kind of season-long things, but certainly things that my eye will be on throughout the rest of the offseason and into the season for Nebraska men's basketball. First and foremost, to me, we've heard a lot about Fred Hoiberg's mid to this point Nebraska career switch. Right. Offensive guru leans into defense and rebounding. Nebraska's defense takes off, shoots into the top 50, the top 25, even the top 10 in a lot of defensive efficiency metrics. And that to me is going to be one of the biggest things to monitor, that Nebraska is not necessarily getting through on the defensive end always because of personnel, right? Not because they have this rim eraser, not because they have this guy that puts a straitjacket on the other team's best scorer. It's about the people. For sure, right? We heard a lot last year about Rink Mast and his communication, Berke Buchtengel and his organization. Obviously, Sam Hoiberg at the point of attack and good positional defense up and down the roster. But what we've heard from Fred Hoiberg all offseason, to this point, it's a quiet team. Communication is lacking, and that's not going to fly if Nebraska is going to maintain its standing because the personnel is what it is. We'll get into the height, the length that Nebraska upgraded at least to get off the bus test in that way coming up here in a little bit. But with Nebraska's defense being so built on rotation, on communication, and on timing, a quiet gym is always a bad sign. It might be catastrophic for Nebraska.
Yeah, that's I did, I've heard you kind of talk about that too. Is that is a bit concerning. You hopefully, you get to that communication, and it's just, such good senior leadership last year with guys that have been through the program and been through quite a bit, and Rick Mast and Sam Hoiberg. But that's kind of, when you look at this too, it's like, okay, who's the defensive stopper? And they, went out and got DeGorville. I know there's some pieces there, but Sam Hoiberg was a first team all Big Ten defender and many considered should have been up there for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. That's going to be tough to replace. And again, with that communication, having played together for so long. So we'll see. I mean, it is interesting to see if they can get that level of defense, out of this unit. Because that has been kind of the consistent, and that's what it is. Defense is consistent. You can go up and down with your shooting, but if you can have a team that brings it on the defensive end night in and night out, then you've got something you can lean on. And so we'll see. It is interesting. It doesn't, at least in my mind, and maybe, I think there's certainly, you're going to get the effort of the Kel Jacobsons and stuff like that, but I don't know if this sets up to be as good of a defensive roster. Now they do have a lot of bigs. They've got a lot of length, especially, which can be troublesome. So I don't think it's, going to fall out. They're going to have to score 90 points a game this year to win them. But yeah, but that is one thing I do feel good about, is at least the length that we're going to see on this team, because that's going to be tough, especially, closeouts, rebounds, getting to it. They've got that rolling for them.
Well, you think about Nebraska being borderline top 50, certainly top 75 in offense, and then top 10 in defense last year. If that's a top 50 offense and a top 30 defense, then you're talking about Nebraska in that 7 to 9 seed range, most likely, obviously depending on which games Nebraska is able to win. But Nebraska at least was able to hang its hat on that defensive side of the ball last year. And I think the communication piece is even more important because Leo Curtis is not, even Ryan Kalkbrenner to this point, right? Where you could get away with maybe a little less communication or a couple traffic cones because that you have an incredible defender at the rim that's just going to play and drop coverage and erase mistakes. What I don't think Nebraska can afford to do, though, is put so much on Taj DeGorville's plate when he's not even a surefire starter, most likely a bench guy even coming in from San Diego State. and just saying, Taj has got it locked up. We're good, right? It's okay if I'm not exactly there. And of course, the coaching staff won't let him get away with that. We trust Nate Lenzer, Fred Hoiberg, Coach Ziegler, Coach Monahan, et cetera, the staff to get them in place. But some of that's natural on a basketball court is when you have a guy with the reputation that Sam Hoiberg had, that Taj DeGorville has. And, if Leo Curtis develops into that rim protector, we'll have to see, but they're not there yet. While those guys come along and they find their footing, communication is even more important for Nebraska to find a way to be connected, because that more than anything has been the strength of this defense. They run a style that not a lot of teams do anymore. They play it in a different way. And it all starts with communication, not necessarily parking someone at the rim and, shadowing the other team's best player.
Well, and then, and again, too, individually, Braden Frager had made one of the biggest shots in Nebraska basketball history, if not the best. He was the 6th man of the year. We get that. He was picked on defense, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have guys, hopefully that even, and he, remember 2 years ago, sat out, got to the point where obviously they could use him as a ginormous weapon, but he's still growing. Okay, so does he take his defensive game to the next level? That's by far the biggest question for him, because again, you can't just kind of have, especially when your players that you're going to rely on more this year on the offensive end, not just to score, but to be a threat, right? Just to kind of get some of the defense attention there, to be picked on. And again, if it's Steph Curry and you kind of understand he's undersized and he can make up for it in so many ways on the offensive end. But when you're 6'7", you should be able to hold your own. He's got the athleticism to do it. So, I think that is definitely something that for Frager, if he's going to take his step the next level and be, whatever it is down the line, right? Hopefully he never has transfers or, all that sort of stuff, but be more desirable at the next level. He's going to have to take some major steps in that department.
We were going to get to this one later, but we'll get to it as number 2. Bada Bing on YouTube comments, who are some young players on the roster that Nebraska fans should keep on their radar? If I remember correctly, Leo Curtis had some shine, got some run last year. Yes, he did in spurts, right? Still one of those project big guys that redshirted, and then last year played some spot minutes, had 6 points, I think, against Michigan, had some minutes late in the first half against Vanderbilt. I think it's important that Leo Curtis is a consistent factor in that rotation, Bach. I mean, you mentioned Nebraska went out and got 2 transfer bigs, another couple transfer forwards as well. Leo Curtis is a pretty true center. He's a 5-man. You're going to play him, primarily behind Bowden Kapke, I would think. And then this can get into another part of the conversation here in just a minute, but we'll stick with the youth versus experience angle. Curtis needs to be on the floor. He needs to have a role, even if it's, 8 to 12 minutes per game, maybe like Cale Jacobson started at in a different position. That's a start. There's been nothing but rave reviews for Jacob Lanier, the freshman out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Is he able to crack that seemingly deep guard rotation and play a role as a freshman enough to keep him around to blossom into the player that Nebraska thinks he can be? Colin Rice dealing with the fallout from his broken hand. So we'll see what rehab recovery looks like for him. Those are 2 young guys, Bach, that I think have the program excited for the future. But we also know Nebraska is a program that's really leaned on experience. Nebraska, when it took off, got older, right? Got more experience, got more veteran across the board. And so I think ideally for Nebraska, it's able to sprinkle some of the youth in there at times, but I don't think you're at all in line for a youth movement. And I'd be curious to know how those conversations with Lanier, with Rice, with Curtis specifically are going to understand that, hey, there's a role for you on this team. There's a role for you in this program. Nebraska's not going to get back to being dominated by sophomores and by freshmen. I think it's going to be hard for those young guys to crack the rotation, even if they're talented, because of how much Nebraska has wanted to rely on that upperclassman veteran experience.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think all 3 of them have a very bright future. I mean, could be definitely starters for Nebraska down the line, but, probably not this year. And, you're hitting on Curtis, the leap that he can make. And if he does, I mean, you talk about what a valuable piece he could be for Nebraska, because even though he was young and raw, right? I mean, you could see, it wasn't so raw, right? It was like, okay, this isn't teaching a big guy basketball or, like one of those guys that he played for 2 years and now we're going to see.
He's further along than Matar Diop was.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he can do. For those other guys, I think too, it might be just kind of find a role that, for a lot of young guys, it is find something that you could do that maybe the team is lacking a little bit. And for Jacob Lanier, I don't know if they're going to have problems ball handling or something like that, but maybe that could carve out a path for some minutes. So we'll have to see. But yeah, you're in a luxury spot. I mean, again, there's plenty of programs around the country and plenty of times throughout Nebraska basketball where it's like, we're going to need you guys to play a big role. That's just kind of part of the makeup here. But again, with a Sweet 16 team that was desirable in the transfer portal, obviously the weapons that you got back, you're in a pretty good spot here. And I don't know if it's always going to be that way from here on out if Nebraska is able to kind of keep this thing rolling. But you would imagine that would be the case unless you can kind of get that next level freshman right into it when you're talking about, the Dukes and the Kentuckys of the world. But
Dawson Batty's coming. Have you heard the rumors?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, and then it is like a Bryce McGowan's would come in and play right away. Right. So, and you never know, sometimes in recruiting services that's missed. Maybe one of these guys is one of those type of players. Keaton Wagler, perfect example from Illinois last year, not highly recruited, ended up being one of the, a lottery pick, one of the best players in college basketball. So those are, I think, the good kind of way to put it was the question to begin with. Names to watch, not necessarily names to count on.
I think where you'll be watching for this is number one, in case of injury, who is it that, steps up there? But then also I think end of game, who gets off the deep bench first or blowout or whatever it is that looks like. Because if you're Lanier, you're the 4.5, 5th guard walking onto campus probably. And if you're Colin Rice, you're between maybe the biggest breakout player in college basketball, maybe in the Big Ten last year, and Price Sanford with the explosion he had, and Braden Frager as wings, right? I think you're 3rd in that pecking order. And I think Nebraska wants to do right by its older guys and by its veterans. But Nebraska understands that, in this era of college basketball, freshmen aren't always happy to wait their turn. And whether it's right or wrong, it might behoove Nebraska to, say, hey, thanks, vets, for the work you're doing on scout team and in practice. We appreciate you. But we feel the need to get the freshmen in first, right? If it's a 20-point game with, 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go, is it, for example, Essegian and Cooper, or is it Lanier and Rice? I'm curious to see how it is Nebraska handles that. We'll get to one more of the 7 things before we take our first break, and we'll get the rest of the list when we get back after break. Small ball or bully ball? I think these conversations can go back and forth, Bach, because you can see lineups where Nebraska has Price Sanford playing the 3, Braden Frager playing the 4, and only one of the big guys on the court at the time, whichever one's effective or most effective between Kapke, Wilkinson, and Curtis. Maybe you get some lineups where you want to go super small, and it's Sam Orm that's playing some small ball center in stretches. Or maybe you go super big, where you have, 6'4" Lenhart, 6'4" DeGorville, Sanford at the 3, or Frager at the 3. And then you do put 2 of those 3 big guys in the lineup in the rotation at the same time. Orm's big enough as well. So 2 of those 4 between Orm, Kapke, Wilkinson, and Curtis. There are going to be moments Nebraska is going to need both of those lineups. And seeing how Nebraska makes it work, how it balances it, this will be another thing we'll get to in a little bit with rebounding, with floor spacing, with how they want the offense to run, and positional versatility and switchability with what Nebraska wants to do on defense. I think Nebraska's got a lot of skill on the roster. I think that's really what small ball is about. You hear it from Mike D'Antoni all the time. Small ball wasn't about the size of the players. It was about dribble, pass, shoot. And Nebraska is always looking to put as much dribble, pass, shoot on the floor as it can. But does Nebraska now have better answers for last year's Purdue, right? If they just go with a couple monsters and Kaufman, Wren, and Clough that are going to devour rebounds, does Nebraska feel the need to go too big? Is Nebraska able to make it work with 2 bigs on the court at the same time? Or is Nebraska's strength still playing 5 out or 4 around 1? What does Nebraska decide to do? I think they have the versatility to do both. Fascinated to see when and where Nebraska breaks out those different combinations.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be so fun because as a coach, you can mess with a lot of that. Obviously, experiment with it, but then just the matchups. A lot of it's probably going to be matchup based with the strengths and weaknesses of the teams that you're playing. But I'm especially would be excited. I don't know if this is how it's going to work out, but Lenhart, Frager, Sanford, Orm, and Kapke, I think might be your best lineup. Might not be, but that's a very lengthy group that can shoot all 5 of them.
Yeah.
So that could be a lot of fun. But again, then you kind of get into it, certain matchups you might need some different things, and it could change the dynamic of that team right away, right? When a Damon Wilkinson comes in and doesn't have the 3-point shot, or Leo Curtis. So it is going to be fun to see how they mix it up. But to your point, it's just it's encouraging. I can't always any Nebraska basketball discussion. I always can't help but think of previous teams, and like I remember like the 08 team, I think it was like the smallest team in Power 4 basketball. There's just limitations to what you can do with rosters and lineups like that.
Well, tell that to Fairleigh Dickinson.
It's actually a pretty solid squad back then, even. But this is a lot of versatility, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch to see how they play it. I naturally like the 3-point shot. So
you and me both, my friend. You and me both.
I created my ultimate 3-point lineup there with a lot of length. But again, don't forget Linhart is 6'6". I mean, this is a very lengthy group that is going to be very tough for a lot of teams to match up with and just deal with the size one way or the other. But and then you've just got the size down low. You've got several 6'11", 6'10", 7-footers. Feels a little bit like Purdue, right?
Maybe
you just haven't had that luxury in Nebraska basketball. I remember again to the times where you get a 7-footer from overseas, doesn't really seem to know basketball that well, big time project, all that sort of stuff. And that's who you would hope on and lean on a prayer if if you're playing a Purdue or a Kansas back in the Big 12 days. But so it's very versatile. It's going to be very, very fun to see how it plays out. And then I'm interested too in kind of, there's certain play like Essien. I'm so interested to see what role he has, because again, for a couple of years ago on a tournament team, he was the third leading scorer.
Yeah.
And he can be lethal from beyond the arc, and that can really help you out in these games. But you got so much shooting everywhere. He's going to have to be hitting, and that's going to be kind of his job going in there. So I think certain nights, obviously, he's going to get more minutes if he's hitting than if he's not. Jacobson, can't wait to see what role he has. Again, certain nights if he's hitting, if they need, kind of an on-ball defender. But I mean, think about him. I mean, he's kind of a smaller guy, and he was asked to play the 1 through 4. No longer necessarily probably needed this year.
No, absolutely not. I have fewer questions about Nebraska's backcourt. Of course, there's some scale up questions. What does Lenhart look like in the Big Ten instead of the WAC? What is DeGorville? What is he looking for, out of his time at Nebraska? How do they use him, et cetera, et cetera? Same thing, maybe potentially with Essien coming off of injury. Price Sandfort, what does his volume look like? We'll definitely talk about him next segment. But for me, Buck, the biggest questions for Nebraska's big versus small come in the front court. Does Orm adapt to the physical nature of the Big Ten? And is he as advertised in year one as a shooter? Damon Wilkinson, what does his progression look like? He was supposed to start shooting more threes at South Dakota State this last year. Said he didn't do it for the good of the team, but was going to start doing it this offseason. Impressed Nebraska's coaches with his shooting stroke in workouts, but he's been a pretty traditional pick and roll, back to the basket, post up big, which Nebraska, I think, can use as a wrinkle, but it's not what they're going to major in, as Jay Foreman would say. Is he talented enough in the low post that Nebraska says, hey, guess what? We'll stick you in the dunker spot like we did Berke Buchtenjel, like we did Josiah Alec. Bowden Koepke, how's he as a passer, right? He's willing to shoot from 3. Is he a good enough shooter to be a legitimate threat from distance, or is he just out there because he's the best of the options? Leo Curtis has a decent-looking stroke. There's just so many moving parts with the 7'2" guy. Has he adapted to the speed of the game? How does he hold up in those same kind of passing reads as well? They got the bodies in the front court. To me, it's about the translation to see if those guys have the skills that Nebraska needs. We'll go to break there. We have a few more of the things to watch for Nebraska men's basketball 7 weeks out from the season opening exhibition against St. Louis. Jake Bachman over there, Austin Norman here, and more Nebraska men's basketball chatter next on Old School.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, The best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Building a new home can be a challenge, a lot of big choices. With our Remington homes, we have designed 15 different floor plans that appeal to a wide range of people.
Bob Benish of Aspen Builders, talking about Remington Homes, which makes the home building process easier.
People really enjoy being able to go to our website, which is remingtonlincoln.com, pick a plan, pick a price point, go through and build it yourself. You have a lot of options, whether you want granite, painted trim, wood floors, more stone, all options with our Remington homes. People do not want to be married to their house payment. You're able to get what you really want in a home for a great price with very limited stress. And that's what Remington homes are all about.
Home building is easier with a Remington home from Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at remingtonlincoln.com. remingtonlincoln.com.
Here's your updated 93.7 The Ticket forecast, sponsored by Bryant Air Conditioning, Electrical, Heating, and Plumbing. Slight chance of thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. High temperatures reach up to 87. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight, slight chance for storms. Lows level off around 66. That's your updated forecast on Lincoln's home for the Kansas City Royals. 93.7 The Ticket. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster. Right now, 80.
The friends out at CJ's Paintball Park and Airsoft would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from CJ's Paintball Park and Airsoft. CJ's Paintball Park and Adventures.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. White elastomeric roof coating stops leaks and restores flat roofs. It lowers roof temperature by reflecting heat from the sun, helping you save on energy costs. And it's easy to apply with a brush, roller, or sprayer. Shop our entire selection of roof coatings today on Menards.com. Plus, check our weekly flyer for all of the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards. Looking for something different for lunch or dinner in Lincoln? Big 8 is now open at 1226 P Street, serving seafood boils and Asian cuisine. Get your hands messy with fresh, flavorful seafood boils. Hot, bold, and made to share. Or enjoy classic Chinese and Asian dishes, perfect for lunch, dinner, or a night out with friends and family. Big flavors, generous portions, a brand new dining experience. Big 8, now open in Lincoln.
Some moments deserve more than ordinary jewelry. At Sartor Heyman, we've helped Lincoln celebrate life's biggest occasions for over 120 years. With quality craftsmanship, timeless gifts, and diamonds you can see from across the room. From our exclusive Heartland collection to custom design pieces, every detail is made with care by experienced jewelers you can trust. Whether you're celebrating love, family, milestones, Sartor Heyman has a gift for every occasion in life.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Ever look at your house and think, ouch, it's stuck in the past? Or realize that your kitchen needs a new everything? Like thousands of homeowners, you can simply call SprayNet Lincoln. Their patented spray system and paint delivers a flawless factory finish. No mess, done in a day, and cost effective. It looks just like new, including your vinyl. And it's all backed by their 15-year no-peel warranty. SprayNet Lincoln, custom chemistry and smarter painting. Google SprayNet Lincoln or call them now at 402-383-3336 or email ching@spray-net.com.
Constructors is now hiring for all positions with pay starting at 23 and up based on experience. Constructors has immediate job openings for mechanics, bridge builders, operators, and drivers. Start your new career today. Constructors offer great pay, health, dental, and vision, paid time off, paid holidays, and so much more. Join the crew today and be a part of Nebraska's oldest paving company dating back to 1908. For a complete list of openings and to apply online, visit constructorslincoln.com.
New from Arbor Axe House comes Benny's Battle Barge, the mobile axe throwing adventure. Perfect for festivals, parties, fundraisers, and celebrations. Charter the barge at arboraxe.com or call Arbor Axe House at 402-802-9696. Arbor Axe House at the corner of N Street and Antelope Valley.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Talking more Nebraska men's basketball, 7 things with 7 weeks to go before the Huskers' first scrimmage against the Billikens of St. Louis. Austin Orman and Jake Bachman here with you, talking some Husker hoops. A few more things to get to then, Bach. Other things to monitor for Nebraska men's basketball. The paint crew. Are guards getting paint touches, and how often does Nebraska, go to post-ups and what? Obviously, the primary part of this will be whether it's Lenhart, DeGorville, Jacobson, lead guards, maybe Frager as well, getting 2 feet in the paint, whether it is to score or kick out to shooters. That's the basis, the backbone of a lot of what Nebraska wants to do on offense. But you add in a capable post-scoring big man in Bowden Koepke, a savant in the post in some ways in Damon Wilkinson, who has that in his bag. Oh, and the 7-2 guy as well, on top of the wrinkle that Nebraska showed last year in posting up Price Sanford at times against Bennett Sturts in the Iowa game. Nebraska doesn't just abandon the low post, right? Yes, it is perimeter based. No, Nebraska doesn't do a whole bunch of post ups. They did last year for Rink Mast in that Rutgers game when Rink had almost 30 points in that one. But I'm curious to see how able Nebraska is to get to the paint at will, if it's based off of the movement, the motion, the flow of the offense, or if guys like Lenhart and Wilkinson pop in the pick and roll, or if Bowden Koepke can put the ball on the deck against bigger opponents, or if DeGorville and Jacobson and Frager specifically can break guys down off the bounce. Nebraska doesn't get paint touches, its offense comes up, plain and simple.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And again, going back to the length that Nebraska has, is that you can get some mismatches down there, with Lenhart especially, if you've got a lot of guards out there, he might have 3 or 4 inches on. So could be interesting to kind of see if you can get those matchups there. I do think it is going to be fun too. I mean, Sanford's clearly got that in his bag. So, that's going to be part of it too, to see how teams defend him. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. And too, I think sometimes we forget that, like, guards in those matchups, you're rarely going to command a double team. So teams are going to be fine, mostly kind of letting you back your way in there. And if you can be effective at scoring, then that kind of opens up a whole new part to your game and the offense in general. Ray Allen's well known for being one of the best shooters of all time, but he was always also one of the best post guards of all time. And really made it kind of difficult for him for them to defend him. So yeah, it's interesting wrinkle I hadn't thought about yet, but they should. I mean, Kel Jacobson, I think, was really kind of effective and crafty at scoring from down there. So it's it is another weapon I think that they could utilize, and you just kind of have to figure out who are those guys that we would trust and who's particularly effective at doing it. But again, I think they'll have the lineup for that option.
I tend to agree. I think that it's got to be an option for Nebraska in some ways. Let's get to this as well as we would talk about the post and rebounding. Nebraska's improved. Nebraska's made strides. It wasn't perfect, obviously, at times last year, where you see Oscar Clough tear Nebraska up a couple of different times. Trey Kaufman-Renn do some stuff. And we mentioned it in the first segment, Bach, just the length, the height that Nebraska has. Here's the thing, though. Rebounding is not just height, right? You think about, the quintessential example for Nebraska basketball recently has been Sam Hoiberg. All 6 foot something of him. and averaging, 5+ rebounds per game, among Nebraska's leaders in defensive rebound percentage. It's great that Nebraska's gotten taller. It's great that Nebraska's gotten longer, but with rebounding, just like with defense, it helps if you know how to use it, if you know how to leverage it correctly. Nebraska can't lose, its focus on rebounding just because it's a taller team now, right? Nebraska still needs to make sure it gets a body and can't just rely on guys being taller than they have been. That's a really good way for Nebraska to lose a bunch of possessions.
Yeah, and you wonder too, if there's going to be any more of an emphasis on offensive rebounding and trying to get more possessions rather than obviously getting back and protecting defense. And again, it just kind of depends on what the coach think is best with the lineup that they have out there. But yeah, and the other thing too is with that, especially if there are going to be a 3-point shooting team, oftentimes those misses bounce over the tall guys, right?
Right.
So it's kind of in that middle area, and that's where Hoiberg was particularly effective at just kind of reading the ball off the rim and obviously use his quickness to get to where he needs to go. So I mean, it's better to have it than not, and definitely will help out in the rebounding department. But especially in today's game, and depending on the team that you're going to play, if they are shooting a lot of threes, it's going to be a lot more than length, and it's going to be a lot of hustle, and hopefully again. I don't think it's fair. I think a lot of people will just kind of group these two together because they were not expected to be what they are, which is Hoiberg and Kel Jacobson. And so I don't think Kel Jacobson has to do everything that Hoiberg does, but he does definitely leave it all out there. And for his size, so I think especially with him, hopefully did spend enough time. Might not be a carbon copy, but hopefully spend enough time with Hoiberg to maybe hopefully kind of read some of that stuff and help learn to get that off the rim and maybe be the next kind of big guard and guard as far as rebounding and again for certain guys like him too. It's what is his role going to be? He can serve so many different roles and was needed at times to serve so many different roles. But if he doesn't need to do all that as much, maybe you focus more on becoming kind of the lead rebounding guard.
We get this from Dave Braska, who says, I believe that both Sanford and Frager need to shoot 15 to 20 times each per game in order for the Huskers to be successful. We'll get into the shots in just a second here, but Bach, I'd almost rather see Sanford and Frager combine for 15 rebounds per game than each of them take 15 shots per game. Potentially. We'll talk through it, but with the way Nebraska's offense functions and the way the defense functions, to me, it might be I'll settle on it'll be as important for Sanford and Frager to get close to 15 rebounds between the two of them, more often than not, or at least, involved, than it is to force feed those guys shots all the time.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I think we're in two different categories here too. I mean, Frager, I think there's so much upside and so much excitement, and he made some big plays last year, but again, it's kind of about consistency, going from that 6-man role to the starting role and having a lot more the shots you take and the shot selection, and being able to share the ball. I think that this team is going to be much better off if they don't have to shoot 15 times per game, because that likely means you're not getting enough of a threat from around the rest of the court. And I think Nebraska's got enough around them that you do have enough of an offensive threat. Again, back to the idea of going out there and getting, 5 guys that can shoot from anywhere on the court. I don't think they're going to have to. And if they do have to, then you think about the suffocating defense on Price Sanford. If he's the main, he's going to be the main primary threat, but if he's kind of only one of 2 or 3 guys that you're worried about out there, then you can put a lot more defense on him and a lot more focus on him. So yeah, I get the idea, and they're certainly the 2 guys with the reason why Nebraska is where they are, right? I mean, especially if they can take jumps in their game, that's why Nebraska could be a top 15 or 20 team without a doubt. But I don't think that you're in a situation, and Nebraska's been there, several times, unfortunately, over the years. You think about that James Palmer, when Isaiah Copeland's injury was so kind of impactful, is you're kind of down to your offensive weapons out there, and put so much on, Palmer and those guys to get it done. So to your point too, I mean, I think I'd rather take some more rebounds out of them, kind of put them into more of the category of all around players, rather than just big time offensive threats that, that's going to lead their name. If they could become more overall players and allow and the players around them allowed them to rely on them a little bit more. That's the path of success for Nebraska, rather than, I think if each of them are shooting 15 shots a game, that sounds like a team that's maybe 500 or above. Like, that's too much pressure on them.
For reference, that would double Frager's output from last year. He took an average of 8.3 shots per game. Bryce Sandfort was not far behind that. As a sophomore, he took 6.5. He doubled his volume to 13 shots per game as a junior at Nebraska. So you're looking for an extra 2 shots per game for Bryce Sandfort. Okay, doable depending on how fast Nebraska wants to play. And we're not saying these guys should never take 15 or 20 shots. If they're hot, if it's a matchup, if the ball just finds them, sometimes you have those nights. But think about this. In Bryce Williams' senior year, when he was really the do-it-all guy for Nebraska, not even he took 15 shots. Bryce Williams took 13.8 shots per game. Now, he did get to the free throw line 6 times per game as well, and those are possessions that you need to factor in there. So, yeah, no, I don't think 15 to 20 every night is necessarily how Nebraska is built to do it. I don't think that's necessarily healthy. With this one caveat, Bach, and that's that if Bryce Sandfort is going to be a 40% three-point shooter, he needs to take enough threes that he's not a 40% shooter. And I know that sounds funny. Well, 40%, that's a really good percentage. Why don't you want that? Because you want the volume up even higher. Because if you can tell me Bryce Sandfort's a 38% three-point shooter on 11 attempts per game, that is better over the long haul than a 40% shooter over 8 attempts per game, essentially, is how the math would work out there. There's a line where you're taking too many. You don't want Bryce Sandfort in, let's call it Trae Young territory, where you're 35% from 3 on like 12 attempts per game. That's worth it to a point, but maybe the logical endpoint, right? The James Harden, kind of play style with the Houston Rockets as well. Bryce Sandfort can be a mid to upper 30s three-point guy if he gets to double-digit attempts per game. That's where the math will work, and that'll be, maybe final evolution of Hoyball. But if he's a 40% three-point shooter, he needs to take more. We ran into this with Steph Curry, where a 40% look from 3 for Steph Curry for Bryce Sandfort in college is better than a 33 to 35% look from someone else on the roster. Give your best shot maker the ability to make shots, but try to make sure that they're in rhythm and not just saying, hey, get it up, because that's the deal for Bryce Sandfort. He got a lot of in-rhythm looks, whether it's off movement or spot up. Sure, draw more up for him. That's fine, but you also can't neglect the rest of the roster either.
Well, it's going to be so interesting, especially a year after he's been scouted, right? He's going to be the top of the scouting department. And they're going to run their offense through him. They they got to that, it last year. And that was kind of the whole, idea of bringing him in is, hey, you don't have to just be a floor spacer. We can run things through you. And then he took his game to the next level. And it's like, okay, now we're going to run more things through you. But, with that is going to be some, big time closeouts and, that sort of stuff. And I thought early on in the year, he did a really good job, especially of kind of taking advantage of his threat from 3 and then being able to finish at the rim. And so I think hopefully you can kind of start to see that integrated once again. But yeah, I mean, he's so fun, especially with how hot he can get. There's certain, I mean, he's got the K-Say green light, right? Where it's like, all right, doesn't have to be the best look. If you just hit 2 of them, please give him the ball and let him get a shot up. I can't wait. I mean, one of the best 3-point shooters, obviously, this program's ever seen. One of the best 3-point shooters in the nation. But to your point, use that weapon. Don't let it go by. And for the sake of efficiency, because overall you're going to be more efficient as an offense if you're having more of those shots going up from him.
Here's the money question. Yes or no? Truly yes or no? Does Bryce Sandfort hit 9 or more threes in a game to break Nebraska's single game record this year? Does he do it?
I'm such a big Kerry Cohorn fan that I was somewhat like nervous. I don't want to say rooting against it, but I always like Kerry Cohorn's spot. I think that he will be he might still be safe for the career record. I'd have to look. I'm not sure. But I think he does. I mean, I there was a couple games where it was so close and you had, basically a half to hit 1 or 2 more. And part of it, I think it wasn't Northwestern game. One of those games was like, they could have played several more minutes, but they kind of had the game in hand. I think he does. I think he gets there.
Kerry Kilhorn made 268 threes in his Nebraska career. Last year, Bryce Sanford made 129.
That's going to be close.
He's
Could be very close.
just shy of halfway there in 1 year.
Well, I will say this for Kerry. If he would have played in this era, he would have shot more.
True. I'd rather see Kerry Cohorn shoot than Ray Gallegos shoot.
That's
right. Let's go ahead and go to break. I do have one more thing to watch for the 7 weeks before Nebraska men's basketball's scrimmage against St. Louis. He's Bach. I'm Austin. Come back with us to wrap up Old School.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Looking for something different for lunch or dinner in Lincoln? Big 8 is now open at 1226 P Street, serving seafood boils and Asian cuisine. Get your hands messy with fresh, flavorful seafood boils. Hot, bold, and made to share. Or enjoy classic Chinese and Asian dishes, perfect for lunch, dinner, or a night out with friends and family. Big flavors, generous portions, a brand new dining experience. Big 8, now open in Lincoln.
I'm thinking food, like those big budget-friendly portions you find at Buzzard Billy's.
Now you're talking. I love Buzzard Billy's. I love the shrimp po' boys and the blackened chicken.
You almost always find me enjoying gumbo.
Big plays, big scores, big wins, big red. Yep, love them all, especially
those big portions that are budget-friendly. Only at Buzzard Billy's, A-Market.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers, and if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Ever look at your house and think, ouch, it's stuck in the past? Or realize that your kitchen needs a new everything? Like thousands of homeowners, you can simply call SprayNet Lincoln. Their patented spray system and paint delivers a flawless factory finish. No mess, done in a day, and cost effective. It looks just like new, including your vinyl. And it's all backed by their 15-year no-peel warranty. SprayNet Lincoln, custom chemistry and smarter painting. Google SprayNet Lincoln or call them now at 402-383-3336 or email ching@spray-net.com.
Some moments deserve more than ordinary jewelry. At Sartor Heyman, we've helped Lincoln celebrate life's biggest occasions for over 120 years. With quality craftsmanship, timeless gifts, and diamonds you can see from across the room. From our exclusive Heartland collection to custom design pieces, every detail is made with care by experienced jewelers you can trust. Whether you're celebrating love, family, milestones, Sartor Heyman has a gift for every occasion in life.
Husker fans know a strong game plan makes all the difference, no matter where they cheer from. The dedication fans bring every season is the same dedication that builds long-term financial success. That's why Emeritus connects fans across the country with financial professionals who can help them plan, prepare, and move toward their goals. As a proud partner of Husker Athletics, Emeritus supports fans in every corner of the country because great fans deserve a great future. Emeritus, fulfilling life, fueled by Husker pride. Go to emeritus.com/HuskerWealth for more information.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit ostreetcarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor in just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures.
but buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. It's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear that you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
The friends out at CJ's Paintball Park and Airsoft would like to take this time out to thank our first responders, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare professionals who put their lives in harm's way for our protection. Blood donation centers need people to donate blood. Be a silent hero and donate blood today. It will help accident victims, surgery patients, sick children, and members of our military. This message is from CJ's Paintball Park and Airsoft. CJ's Paintball Park and Adventures.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. White elastomeric roof coating stops leaks and restores flat roofs. It lowers roof temperature by reflecting heat from the sun, helping you save on energy costs. And it's easy to apply with a brush, roller, or sprayer. Shop our entire selection of roof coatings today on Menards.com. Plus, check our weekly flyer for all of the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
One more thing to get to, just a few minutes to get it done for Nebraska men's basketball offseason chatter. I'm Austin. He is Bach. Big thanks to Graham Tire Company for their sponsorship of the show. And thing number 7 for me, Bach, killer instinct. And that's how I labeled this on my notes. Really about Evan Miyakawa's definition of a kill shot, a 10-0 run. Nebraska was one of the best teams, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country at going on 10-0 runs and also preventing them from opponents. Nebraska goes on 30 runs of 10-0 or greater last year, only allows 9. So over 3 times as many of those big runs for Nebraska. Why does that matter? Per Evan Miyakawa's research, a team with a kill shot wins a game 71% of the time. It's 81% when you have more kill shots than your opponent, and 88% if you're able to string together 2 kill shots in a game. And of course, that's the term that he uses for it. What it's measuring is game control. It's measuring dominance, and it's measuring explosiveness because it's on both sides of the court. Some of Nebraska's 10-0 runs were over, 5 or 6 minutes where maybe shots aren't falling, but the defense is keeping the other team off the scoreboard. Some of Nebraska's 10-0 runs were blink of an eye. Transition 3, steal, dunk, stop, hit a 3, another, steal or transition 3, boom, 11-0 run. Nebraska's extended lead or is right back in the game. That's what I was impressed with from Nebraska in a lot of ways last year, is that they were able to go on those runs and they had that spurtability. I think that's what we could call explosiveness for Nebraska. Maybe not, vertical athleticism, explosiveness, but there was an explosive element, a big play element to Nebraska's offense last year. And, the more 10-0 runs you go on, typically the better team you're going to be, as long as you don't allow 10-0 runs right back. Nebraska was really good at finding ways to manufacture that type of run and generally preventing opponents from going on them.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the reason why they were so good. I mean, they're just not out of any ball game. And then that defense that we talked about and how consistent it is, makes it kind of difficult to go on a run of your own. But that's part of that 3-point threat, especially that they had, with Frager and Sanford. It wasn't just one guy, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly Sanford can get hot and go on a 9-0 run himself if he has a little help on the defensive end. But yeah, I mean, you throw Enrique Mass in there. I mean, that's the hope, is that this team, I think it is built. Again, if you can get that similar defensive edge in there, to be a team that's going to be difficult. And obviously Nebraska basketball historically has had their scoring droughts, if you will, and these teams seem to be less likely to do so. But I think that the makeup of this team, similar to last year, is, and part of it is Sanford. Again, part of it's just having that hot of a shooter that can get going, especially. When he gets on a roll, he's tough to stop. But that's what's so exciting about this team is if they go down 13, for many teams, that's tough to overcome. Obviously, it happens all the time in the NBA because they have the talent to do that. But in college basketball, that's tough to kind of slog your way back into it. But for Nebraska, get a couple possessions, get a couple stops on the defensive end, and get hot from three, and they're right back in the game. And yeah, I think that this team has the kill shot makeup in it as well. So I think that will continue to be a strength of this team.
Yeah, Nebraska went shot for shot with some teams last year. Nebraska went stop for stop with other teams last year. And, I'm not expecting Nebraska to morph into a juggernaut overnight. There's still, steps to be taken as a program. But I do think that those kill shots are a good measure of dominance and game control, right? Sometimes you use them, like you were talking about, to get back in a game. Sometimes you use them to extend a lead and really put a team away. And Nebraska did both of those at times last year. That'll do it for Old School for the week. We'll be back with you again coming up at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Got a full normal lineup for you. We'll head into the Adam Carricker Show, Bach in the Black Shirt in the pit live from Haymarket Park. Then a high school preview show. And tonight, high school football returns to the airwaves. It's a Window World Friday, if you will. Me and Todd Euler calling the game. Lincoln Standing Bear, Lincoln Northwest from Seacrest Field. So I'll talk to you again tonight at 7. Don't go anywhere. The Adam Carricker Show next on the Ticket. Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings, thanks to the all-new delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get one half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
Visit any part of Southeast Nebraska, and you've seen the impact of an SEC grad. At Southeast, we're redefining the community college experience. You'll do more than build a career. You'll build the place you call home. At SCC, Grad had an expert who did more to build them up, to focus their drive, to shape their resolve. Southeast Community College. Let's do more.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service.